plate, I am certain. It's going to be retired, never to turn a pedal stroke again, I wouldn't imagine. What an amazing achievement. I mean, with so much has happened, Danny, it's almost just one of the stories, but, you know, but for Mark and many, it is the story of the race so far.
Yeah, it is. It's been a project for well over a year, hasn't it? He was due to retire in last year's Tour de France, but then broke his collarbone in a crash early on. And then the calls were made to Michael Morkov, who we've already talked about, who's just announced he's going to be retiring at the end of the year, to come across to Astana as the best lead-out man for Mark Cavendish, someone he's ridden with in the past. And that was when the project was on this quest for victory 35 in the Tour de France. So many people behind the scenes, you know, supporting in that victory. And people were talking about whether he's done enough already this season, a couple of stage wins, but did he have the legs? Did he have the favourite coming into the Tour? But he has done it, he's delivered, and that is just remarkable. And the resilience and how he has injuries, ups and downs, and people writing him off. You know, and last time he won here was 2013. You know, such a long time ago. It just shows how remarkable this man is. So yeah, chapeau to him, the whole team behind the scenes to pull it off, because it was a big one.
John, you're going to have to tell us about this arch-infused medieval settlement.
Well, this is the medieval city of Mywhoosh. The medieval town wall was built in the early 13th century under the reign of Philip II, and you had 4 square gates, north, south, east and west gates. The west one has disintegrated, but the other 3 have been preserved. There was the L'église Saint-Aubin in the middle there as well that we saw, and Mywhoosh is very famous for its Onguiette. Now, Onguiette, as those of you who have watched the tour in the last decade will know, is my least favourite thing in France. I find it absolutely disgusting, but I had a fascination with it, and I kept on thinking, oh, Onguiette, what's that? I should try it. And I did, and that is the one and only time that I had Onguiette. I even bought a sausage roll Onguiette once by mistake, and that went straight in the bin.
Everybody else. Mark Cavendish in the British Champions bands, bringing it home and looking absolutely emphatic. Peter Sagan was here, as you can see, sort of mustachioed Sagan, that version on the day. Kept beating him, Bauke Mollema, Jakob Fuglsang, Niki Terpstra. Alberto Contador just cruising home in 7th place, keeping it safe back then. Happy days, I think it's fair to say. What a long it's and usually sprinters kind of realise their own
very nice stage. It was a hard one. I think it's the smallest group I've ever run. It was 12 to 15,000. I mean, it was a brilliant job. On that day as well, the whole team got it for like 50 times. Probably one time I've done that. So it's a pretty special memory.
Have a good one today, Mike.
Thank you.
It is amazing what he remembers that. In fact, if he'd been pushed there, Adam, he would have told you how they approached it, what the final bend was like. He knows it all.
You do, yeah. Through each stage, you have your story, and for every part of it, you've got your chapters, you've got your sentences, everything else with it. But Mark has got a very good memory. But it's always, you know, when you're coming into these bunch sprints, you see so much. 4 places on
the remainder of the day. And as you can see, it's all calm on the western Bretagne, although we are sort of heading towards the centre of France as we will hook back down towards the Pyrenees and then remind ourselves that we're going back to the Alps as well. There's an awful lot of climbing still to come in this race, and in fact a lot of it stacked into tomorrow, Danny.
Yeah, it's a really tough day tomorrow, the second longest stage, 211 kilometres, so one of the most challenging stages, 4,350 metres of elevation, but it's the last 50 kilometres which is so savage. 4 categorised climbs and bonus seconds up for grabs, so one of those days that the GC riders would have highlighted. So yeah, we're in for a corker.
Niels Pollitt. Fearful that he's going to bite the end off it, to be honest. But yeah, he stayed safe, thank goodness. Amazing part of the team. I wonder if Niels Pollitt would have fancied it today. Not a dial-in out-and-out sprinter, and certainly on other duties at the moment. He's big protecting role, of course, but absolute superstars coming into the of course. There's no weak link at all in that unit. No wonder they are favourites, Adam.
They are favourites, and they've got, I think the Tour de France, as we all know, not I think, I know that the Tour de France is particularly time game on the flat stages and time game on the there's always a possibility for time to be gained, but the majority where that time comes from is on the mountains. And if we look at they have got riders which are we've got Niels depending on the workload they have to do, they can all make it into the third or fourth mountain as well. So yeah, on paper and any roads that start to go uphill, they have the best team on paper in this year's race.
The case on stage 9, we've all talked about it roundly, Adam. Do you think got away with it? To being back, something similar again?
I think it should be back. I think it definitely should be back. You know, it's roads, but luckily for us, 2 days ago we didn't have any of them. We didn't have any of the big crashes apart from Vlasov there, obviously a couple of others that we won't really have seen, but in terms of the GC guys, there wasn't any big major issues. You know, it was just Jonas with his bike, but he got back on, and that's part of the drama of the stage. That could happen in any stage at any given moment. So yeah, I think it should come back, because after all, this is entertainment for us. You know, watching the Tour de France is
What up?
a massive part of entertainment. And
I was just trying my electronic drum set on here. It works. I was getting a lot of feedback from my USB cable, so I was trying to figure out what was going on. But yeah, 2-hour ride.
And selfishly, for everyone, us watching at home, we don't really consider that.
No, not at the same time.
The entertainment side, but
I probably could get the little practice pad out and play on the bars, but I'll do one thing at a time. It's hard enough to ride. But the drum set works, so it's something I might do some covers or some shit, you know. Maybe mess around. I might as well at this rate in life.
Nothing like the hoolie that can really blow in areas such as this.
no, I think Cav nailed it earlier. You know, I think a day like today, there is wind and it's up to 17, 18 k's an hour. player radio, you know, they're all up at the front already. The teams will all be given instruction to be at the front. And Mark said on that day in 2013, similar stage, very, well, almost identical finish in terms of where they are. No one was expecting the wind.
I mean, if it's the same, then I guess, you know, I must be working
Everyone is on their
as
toes,
intended.
everyone's
So,
waiting for it, and everyone is ready for it.
yeah, I was going to say, just message the manufacturer, see what they say. I don't know what that G-Fit, looks like they have a bike computer or something. I don't know. I was trying to understand what was going on with that G-Fit application for Windows. But I mean, if it runs the same, it runs the same. So unless they say something different, fuck it.
Yeah, I feel for everyone watching at home that it's going to be like this, but
Not much you can do other than maybe get a different trainer some other day. You know, the Garmin Tax, you know, you can get it on sale for like, you know, $250, $300. So I mean, if you're already using a bike, you're already, you know, halfway there.
We shall see. That's been the glory of this race.
But I mean, if it works, it works. So
How it's going to pan out until the very last.
you're still getting a workout. Your heart rate is still where it's supposed to be. So like,
His victory and the time trial probably the most predictable of everything he's done.
I think we all get a little too caught up with power instead of just riding to ride.
There we are. A heavy day in terms of humidity, 28%. The rain has gone. I don't know whether it will be back a little bit later on. Apparently the wind will blow up with around 58 kilometres to go, and it's going to be a cross tailwind. Let's see how strong that is. When you have storm activity, Adam, it can be difficult to read the weather conditions.
But I would like to do some drum covers. It's a little bit out of my realm for what I've been doing over the years, but I think it'd be good to kind of push past the mental barrier and just play, you know. It's a good avenue to get like a little exposure. I mean, you're playing for people. It might not be physically in front of you, but they're still watching. So, I mean, it's still one of those things where it's kind of putting you on stage. But we'll see.
So yeah, making sure you're hydrated and ready for it is a massive thing on a day like today. We saw on the radio 28 degrees, but a lot of humidity. So it's days like this with a bit of a breeze blowing against you, it is easy to sometimes forget to drink as much as you really need to.
You know, the fans very much part of what we do, of course. You at home, we welcome you and love your company. Also when we get to the high mountains, but there is no part, it seems, of much of the race that isn't actually full of fans. I think it's possibly because it's a feed zone and they know that they might well be getting some goodies cast their way. I mean, I was going to ask you, Adam, when you were a kid, what was the best thing you ever picked up off the roadside at one of these races? But I don't know whether you ever went along. I've seen grown men wrestle grannies for just a bag of jelly sweets cast from one of the publicity caravans. The fans like their souvenirs, don't they?
And by the time the bike riders get through, you've got your hardcore fans, haven't you, that want the bottles, that want you know, something from a bike rider. But if anyone's been to the Tour de France, they'll know what the caravan is like. And the caravan is the sponsors of the Tour de France.
I have to ride today with my padded shorts because my legs are really kind of starting to hurt a little bit.
Constantly throughout the route, they drive the route and they throw these little bits out, food, little bits of key rings, as I said. So by the time the riders get through, if you're not a hardcore fan, you're probably not even thinking of it. You probably filled your boots and got enough food and Christmas presents to give for the next couple of years if you do it well.
Look at you banging on about food. Robin McEwen still chewing on his burger. Will be enjoying it.
Robbie's work, I'll back Robbie up here. He is doing a bit of, he's doing some work in the background, so he's left me to it. I've said it's no problem. Me and you can chew the fat for a little bit longer, Carlton.
Well, we can also discuss the fact that Sheffield is indeed built on 7 hills, just like Rome, and the locals do say that, despite the process stations of John Harris Bass. Am I right, Adam?
Yeah, I'm going to say you're right, Carlton. I've not heard it before, but I will just agree with you.
You've never got the Just Like Rome T-shirt?
I've not, no. It's I mean, I can see the similarities, but mainly with the weather.
I think it was when we had a few Italian footballers come and grace us quite a few years ago.
Can I just say, Carl?
Go on then.
John O'Harry's pass, I mentioned the FaceTime call, has just literally put his head into his hands and started shaking his head at
People
what
of
he's
Sheffield,
listening to with
you
us.
know your nemesis.
Oh, I just can't compete with the Northern Mafia. It's just...
Hey, you got something right, John. Oh, you're correct.
Two sides of the Pennines. It's like a pitchfork.
Can I just cut in here a bit? As much as I love describing
Please.
Sheffield as the Rome of the North, we're just coming into some really interesting wine territory, which is brilliant because we're going to a break.
Go on then, fill your boots.
Well, we're coming into the territory here of Sancerre and Rouy, both of which are really delicious white wines. Rouy, I'd say, vastly superior to Sancerre, but a lot more expensive as well. Sancerre, which has gone up in price spectacularly in the time that I've sort of known it, and actually I much prefer a Mywhoosh if I'm going to be spending that amount of money on a bottle of wine. But just a little further down up the Loire, when we started out today, we went through Chevigny, or close to Chevigny, and they make amazing red and white wines. And they're nowhere near as expensive as Sancerre. However, they have, again, massively gone up in price, as all wines have, and I think the import duty paid now in Britain for French wines has gone up considerably because of the vote that will never speak its name. And that it's a real shame. The accessibility of many of these wines now is becoming much harder to come by in the UK. Well,
Just one of those days, 2 hours.
And just have your table wines with...
I would like to be doing a little bit longer rides.
If you ever are in the region,
Like an hour 15, hour 30s.
I highly recommend both the reds and the whites.
They help.
Really crisp whites, fresh, refreshing reds.
Is it true, sorry Colton, if you mix red and white, that you get your rosé? Actually, I know the answer to this, actually. I know the answer to it already. It's
No.
Red. Yeah, it is no, but it's from red... White wine is from red grapes.
Yes. Well, it can be.
Yes.
Not always.
I'll go as far as that.
I love the fact that you've decided to do this on the digital platform and not expose yourself to the masses.
And they,
But I think
sieve it out.
It's up there with.
Can you
why,
please bring it
why
out?
does the sun burn when there's no oxygen?
Well, I was going to say it comes right up there with Adam's incredible punditry earlier, where he went, we are pretty sure that there will be a winner at the end of today's stage. And I was sort of, so am I. I'm pretty sure about that.
I have a killer question coming in from Doug. He says, does Rome consider itself to be the Sheffield of Italy? I want to know. We'll find out from Rob Hatch what that is in Italian. I'd love to hear the question. Rome, built on 7 hills, just like Sheffield. Well, all right, we've got the snooker. That's about the only win. 97.5 kilometres to go, rattling over the level crossing. We've got quite a few of them today. I guess that's the nature of flat lands, and especially places where there's an awful lot of agricultural produce to be moved around, which used to be by rail and canal. We haven't had a hold-up yet, Adam, on level crossings, thank goodness.
Let's hope not as well, unless it lets the breakaway go out and we get a really exciting final down to the wire.
Man, it's so much easier to spin with a little padding.
Welcome back, everybody. A screen full of riders. There you go. From the heli shot, it tells you that today is about dealing with a distance. It feels like a transfer day, doesn't it? As we head ourselves inexorably south. Today the wind is coming from a westerly. It will be a northwesterly, which will indeed be a cross tailwind later on. Hasn't been a major factor so far. We've had a kind of a warning. Raindrops like cherries, according to Matt Stevens on the bike. Probably sweet as well. You just never know. Nothing purer than rainfall. So yeah, we shall wait and see. A little bit of a chit-chat going on. There is Ryan Gibbons. Hasn't sprinted for 5 years, saw him a moment ago. He will be sprinting today. He's usually on lead-out duties. Adam, how will he go? Be kind.
Good. I think he'll go good. I think, you know, we know the importance of a lead out, how huge it is, and that's, you know, Mark Cavendish's team is basically based around him here and support for that. The same with Alpecin, you know, they've got their one sprinter and the team is built around that. And Ryan Gibbons, yes, he's got a fantastic lead out train if he's the man today, and because the only person that's left is their sprinter. So he's still got that train in terms of Little Trek there. He's got the firepower to do so. But respectfully, Ryan Gibbons isn't Mads Pedersen. So there comes a point where he's got to make that effort himself. He's got to help put himself in position as well. And it can be awful to say, which I don't think it'll be true. But when you don't have that huge leader, the likes of Mads Pedersen, like Little Trek here, that's a lot of risk for the lead-out riders. And there can be a lot of success at the end of it. But almost with Mads, it's not guaranteed, but you have a greater chance with Mads rather than you do Ryan. But at the same time, Ryan is a winner. He's been at the pointy end of bunch sprints before as well. And if he does get that full commitment from his team, or 70-80% commitment from the team,
Just one of those days.
and he could be up there, you know, top 10, top 5 maybe if everything runs smoothly for him. Top 5 if it really runs smoothly for him. And massively capable of the top 10 as well. It's just all about positioning, which he will have to do a lot of on his own if he doesn't have that team support. So yeah, he will be roundabout today, I'm sure.
Well, they've got a tractor in Tim de Klerk as well. The lead-out will be Tom Squinch, Giulio Ciccone, Jesper Stuyven. That's not a bad lead-out, man. And Ryan Gibbons himself, he is used to threading the needle when it gets technical. And it may well be that with that lead-out that will be fully committed to him because of the absence of Mads Pedersen, that today is a great chance because of the technical nature of the Ferrari, I think, for him to get a result. And by that, I mean, you know, a podium potentially, and maybe even more. Let's wait and see. He's been close at hand already, Adam. He was in the run to Colomé when Gamay won his second. He finished in 6th place. So he's shown his intent, and that, dare I say, it was not as technical as today.
It's not as technical as today, but each finish is very different. The riders may feel differently on each run-in. But he has a good chance. Everyone, all the sprinters, all the fast men have a very, very good chance today, you know. And I think on a run-in like this with the 3 corners there, I'm not going to say they have more of a chance, but if you get into that first corner just under a kilometre to go in a good position, you have a better chance of holding on because the corner's stringing it out more and the peloton being more strung out, so it makes it harder for the riders behind to move up. If you get that right, you're gonna run quite well at the finish today if you can benefit from more lead-out trains.
What we can expect from Wout van Aert is anybody's guess after a terrible injury in Dwars door Vlaanderen, sequence of them. Yeah, it was a long list. He's back. So is Christophe Laporte to lead him out, the European champion. Here's Wout van Aert.
Wow, first, how important and how was it to have a rest day yesterday?
It's always important. I was looking forward to that, and yeah, it's nice that there is a day where nothing has to be done and just relax.
We've heard you said that you've had a hard time to find the diamonds in the legs, the good legs. Do you think a rest day could help on that?
Yeah, let's see. I'm also curious to find out. I definitely needed yesterday's rest day, so yeah, I'm looking forward to the second week and to find out how things will feel. How
is it for you, Wout? With all respect, one of the best cyclists in the world, always there in the mix of winning stages, to be where you are now and not feeling 100%.
Yeah, it's of course in a new situation, especially in the Tour de France. It's a race where everybody is on the top of their game, and I'm usually like the best version of myself in this race. So yeah, it's very, very different, but yeah, I have to accept it. It's also what I try to do, and on the other hand, yeah, being not too good is still relative, because I think last Sunday I could show I'm also still very valuable for the team, and I can still do something important in this race.
And today, possible new opportunity. Are you going for the sprint today?
yeah, I think I hope to feel good legs again and give it a go. But yeah, we'll see. I'm curious myself.
A good one.
Thanks.
And Adam, super useful, and indeed so is having your teammates around you. He's been a great servant within this race to Jonas Vingegaard. I'm wondering if the favour will be returns today, or whether he's really thinking more about tomorrow.
I think today, the way it is, Jonas will get across that safety kilometre, you know, the 5 kilometre mark, and, you know, cruise into the finish, make sure he's not caught behind any splits, but just stay safe. And I think for Wout, he'll be able to, like you said, give it a go. What's interesting with that is he'll see himself, you know. I think where he is right now is we just get to a point, Carlton, where they are going to turn ever so slightly in the wind direction. Hence why we're, as you said, the pace is up. There's more teams coming towards the front. There's a few more rocking and rolling of the shoulders going on. But I think with Wout van Aert there, he's interested himself. He wants to know how well he's going to go. He's interested to see as well, see how he comes out of that rest day. But yeah, what a teammate Wout van Aert is. I mean, he's openly admitted there he's not 100%, and saying that, showing that how valuable he was on that gravel stage. And boy, oh boy, that's a man that's not 100%. But even, I'm sure a lot of teams would take Wout van Aert at whatever percentage he's at now over some of their riders, because he's so valuable, even at, like I said, whatever percent he is, 80%, 70%. He's incredible.
And such a modest man as well, I must say. Whenever he's interviewed, I'm always charmed by him, Adam. He speaks sense gently.
He's a charmer. He's a gent at the end of the day, and he doesn't really hide anything too much. I think, you know, before race and pre-race interviews, each and every single rider, apart from Tadej Pogačar at this year's Strade Bianca, hid what they're going to do in the race and their expectations of it. But I think after the race, majority of them now, you know, no one really hides behind anything. They might have a few things to say to certain riders which we don't need to hear, or real secrets, but majority of the riders now wear the hearts on the sleeve and will generally tell you the truth.
Yeah, I think there's so much is measurable now, Adam, and everyone who's here has got good numbers, haven't they?
Oh, I mean, numbers that the majority of us listening and watching can only ever dream of, Carlton. I mean, I saw on social media with Tom Pidcock on the gravel stage, he weighs 57 kilos and he had an average of, I think it was 280 watts. I think that was average power. Normalised was around the 300 mark, a bit more than the 300 mark. And if anyone can do the numbers on that, it is incredible. And to just be able to keep up with this peloton when they're really on is something else. Never mind try and win a stage in it.
Like a Duracell bunny.
Yeah, with 4 other Duracell bunnies powering them.
Yeah, exactly. Other batteries are available. 51 kilometers per hour, they mean this. And as you can see, it's slightly strung out just behind. If you do get tailed off the back here, Adam, you're going to know about it, trying to get back on, even if there's a big hole being punched in the air by a big group in front of you. Don't get dropped is the watchword if the pace picks up all of a sudden. And we're kind of expecting it, aren't we?
We are, yeah. From that helicopter view there, it looks like it's starting to string out a little bit. When we see the peloton as it is spread out across the road with the teams, that is when it starts to get fast. But if you look at the nature of this road now, slightly downhill, they've made that turn, so they're in slightly more cross tailwind, so the pace will have picked up naturally. And for the riders at the back, you know, they're relatively easy at the minute. If you look at the body language of everyone, there's not that super tight compactness. Yes, it's compact, but just look at the space in between the wheels, the riders. They're not rushing to dive into a spot. It's still very, very calm within that peloton. It's a respectful peloton at the minute in terms of positioning. No one's fighting, no one's arguing. When we get closer to the finish, you'll visibly be able to see, how tight those gaps get, how argy-bargy they are, how shoulders start to lean on us, the little touching of the brakes. But for the moment, it's quite calm within that peloton, and I'm sure straight out the rest day, no one's quite ready for that big fight just yet, so they're probably all enjoying it, especially with the sun out.
Yeah, thank goodness. It looks like, well, I don't know whether the threat of rain has abated. I'm looking onto the horizon there, and it looks like it's still hanging around in certain areas, but we've got some sharp shadows here. And indeed a goodly pace, I must say, as we come out from these screens, and everyone has been told to get themselves into position. You can see the fight to get back on and into the pack here, just in case. Waiting for a change of direction, but generally speaking, we are heading south, waiting for that cross tail to blow up in about 30 k's time. Some ridge tiles missing. Who's going to blow the roof off today, Adam? Who's your pick?
It's a very, very tough one. I think it's so hard to call, really, on a day like today. I think, you know, all the sprints are so evenly matched. For me, Gamay has been mightily impressive and consistent, and I think that's one of the main things, consistency coming into these sprints. But when you've got a man like Mark Cavendish in there, you know, if he gets it right today, as we saw when he won, there's not many people that can compete with that, I think. So if he gets it right, yes, but I think Gamay, for me, being the consistent one, he'll be right up there. And then you've got riders who just get it right on that day. You know, the likes of Wout van Aert, who we heard him into, the likes of De Lee, he's been right up there, but not had the smoothest run into the finishes. Groenewegen again, if he's got that space like he had when he won the stage, he'll be right up there. So it is a, you could put almost your hand in a hat with the riders on, with the names on, and pull it out, and you could win or you might not win. I don't think there's one clear favourite like there was last year with Philipsen, and that's what I'm excited about today, because that's when the lead-out trains come into it a little bit more. That's when the trains that don't succeed and the riders can find their own way there and get themselves in the right position. It's all about timing today, and obviously having the legs.
Do you know, there's one rider who kind of roundly ignored, really, but he's been firing on many cylinders, and that's Gaviria. He was second behind Gourmet on stage 3. He was third on stage 6 into Dijon, which I guess you might say is, in terms of terrain anyway, is pretty much similar to today, save for this dramatic finale. And Gaviria is terrific when it comes to positioning. He can surf wheels as well. So by the time we get to that pesky triangle, we take two sides of it. They've plopped it in at the very last. I think Gaviria might actually have a sniff today, and so as an outsider I'm going to go for him because I quite like that. Here's the Chateau Quincy. John?
Yeah, really beautiful one, this built for Charles Pinon, the master of requests and intendant of Berry in 1637. Well, yeah, it does sound a little bit Steve Wright. His son, the General of Burgundy in 1705, had a couple of extra wings built, and the plans are likely to have been drawn up by Monsieur de Noinville, who at the time was the Engineer General of Burgundy. They've got lots of lovely painted ceilings dating back from the mid-17th century, and then more panelling from the reign of Louis XV inside.
Can you visit? It looks like gates closed.
It does, but they have lots of wine from here, and I think you can go in and taste the wine and buy a case or two. But so I think it is somewhere you can visit, yes.
I'll mark it up for my next rest day. We're in colour order. Pace has picked up. Everyone has been told by the director sportifs to get towards the front. They won't all fit, which is why you're seeing some teams just lining up slightly off the nose. But as we head out from the screen of this rather pretty place into more open countryside, the danger therein lies from potential crosswinds. We're expecting some of them to blow up later on. We've got to wait, what, 30 kilometres before we get to that point. Nico Prudhomme just keeping the fluids where they need to be. In fact, it's been the watchword from everybody, and this is why we're seeing him. I'm presuming this is Prod's home. Sorry about that. There's an homage, John. I like that one. It's modest but beautifully delivered.
Yeah, that's quite. It's a subtle one, isn't it? I'm not entirely sure that they knew that they would be seen.
You're not talking about this one, are you?
Yeah.
Not sure they'd be seen.
Well, I just wonder, as in there's no yellow attached to it. Like most people go, Tour de France 2024, welcome to this region, etc., etc. This looks as though it's just some kids who nipped into a field with a combine harvester and made a nice bike.
Have you seen the crop circle that's just appeared? And appearing by magic, of course, is Rob Hatch to carry us through what could be an ever sketchier day, Rob.
Yes, thank you, Carlton. We're looking at that magic moment at around 58 kilometres to go, where there's a slight change of direction and the wind will make it very nervous indeed. We'll be hearing more from Carlton later on. This, in the meantime, is Tom Pidcock on his way back to the car on what is the flattest stage of the Tour de France today. Outside that last time trial, of course. squeezed into those. Not so many kilometres though, plenty of mountains. This, the day that remains with the least climbing. Just depends on who you believe. Organisers say just under 1,000 metres. Velo Viewer puts it just over 1,000 metres. Unclassified climb in the back. Still wearing masks in the Ineos Grenadiers car. Get the feeling that someone's still a little unwell. There was the weather forecast. Popped up very, very briefly. Around 16 kilometres per hour. That wouldn't be enough of it as it stands. But it all depends on who wants to try, Adam.
I was going to say, it's enough to make it stressful, like we can see. Just constant, you know, just always being in that position, always being towards the front. But I believe Anders has got some more info from us from the wind.
I'm standing here with only 18 kilometers from today's finish line, and this sector right here could be very, very decisive for today's finish. Behind me here, you can see how exposed it is. We have the flags behind me. The riders will take a really sharp right turn with 22 kilometers to go. They will facing ahead crosswind. Then they will follow this road for 4 kilometers down to the left turn down here. And then they will face cross tailwind. It's going to be a nerve-wracking final because the riders will face a lot of wind changes. And if we look at the local forecast, it could be quite windier, more windy in the final when the riders approach this section. So I think we are in for a thriller. We all remember what happened 11 years ago here. Crosswind. Let's see if we will have it today.
Thank you, Anders. And a real explanation there as to why we don't believe the general forecast that we just saw flash up before we went to Anders, Adam, because the flags were blowing across the road there, and he said the local forecast, his own experience of being there as well, means it's dangerous, and we could certainly see that it was exposed. While we were listening to Anders, I saw a little message on the radio pop up from Mark Renshaw from Astana, Kazakhstan, just saying, let's keep this position, and if it's not causing too much energy for Harold, that's Harold Tejada, the Colombian, we will stay there. And you can just see the direction of the wind is in the bottom right hand side of your picture, Adam.
Yeah, it's where they're going now, it's just crosswind basically, but you can see from the flags on the side of the road with on top of the camper vans, they are blowing, but they're not flapping, you know, really straight and just directly into that wind. Great to see one of the Brits out there supporting all the Brits, obviously. But as we get on, I just had a little look then from 58 kilometres to go, Rob, as you mentioned, all the way until 22 kilometres to go. They have crosswind, and then it turns into more cross tailwind, back into crosswind, and then almost into tailwind before that corner, and it ramps up to around 20 k's an hour. So it really does become difficult at that turn with 22 k's to go, all the way until 9 k's to go. They pretty much have a cross headwind. So that distance in between 58 and 22, that could be, well, it will be massively fast, and there'll be a lot of stress back into their headwind, and then cross tail with 9 k's to go, and that's when that climb starts. So the race into that cross headwind part is going to be incredibly dangerous, because there'll be riders that are wanting to get back on if they're dropped, being able to save energy into that headwind. So as we've spoke about already, and as we all know, positioning, having teammates around you today is going to be vital, because if you're trying to do this on your own, you can waste a lot of energy, but if you're good at it, you can save an awful amount of energy as well.
You mentioned British supporters there. Adam, it's a record this year. 11 Britons riding the Tour de France is more than ever before.
Great to see, isn't it? Absolutely great to see. And for the riders in the peloton, it's always nice when you've got fellow Brits to talk to and you can have a good chinwag about stuff. You know, they may not see each other a lot through the season, but just having that, just another Brit around is always nice to have a talk to.
It's funny sport, isn't it, cycling? You talk about not seeing each other through the season. You can have your own teammates you really, if they're on a different program, say you're doing the classics, someone else is doing a grand tour and they're at altitude, you might only see them realistically once or twice a year. And it's a difficult thing for a cycling fan to get our heads around, isn't it?
You always see them once, and it's on training camp. So you always see them that one time, but then you may never race with them. I was in Tinkoff in 2016, and Alberto Contador was in the team, and I did one race with him throughout the year, and that was the only time I saw him, and it was well to Burgos. But apart from that, yeah, it's a lot of people will sort of say, oh, you were teammates with Alberto, you must know him, blah blah blah. Hardly. hardly. You know, I'd know him a lot more now from working on Eurosport than I did as a teammate.
I tell you what, I know why he took you to Burgos. That is one of the windiest races around, isn't it? That.
Yeah.
Dearie me, there can be some echelons up there.
It's a brilliant race. Could be similar today. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
I'm going to have a chat now with Mark Renshaw in the Astana team car. Mark, you surprised we haven't got a breakaway today, or are you pretty? Is that what you might have predicted?
No, we predicted there'd be no breakaway today, and it was interesting to see a few riders jumping there. I think this is the tactic we now see, and it's not easy. Don't be fooled. Just because the peloton's straight across the front, it's not an easy day at all.
And what about, when do you think things are going to open up a little bit? When do you think things might start getting a bit stressful?
Look, we're already into the feed zone very shortly. We can see we're starting to come into more open wood areas now, not so wooded areas. So it wouldn't surprise me if the speed starts to increase. But honestly, like I said this morning, I think it's going to be a bunch sprint, and we're not really going to see any kind of echelons today.
Nice one. Thanks very much, mate. Well, good chat there from Mark Renshaw. No surprise from the Astana sprint manager that it's all together. It's all in for the fast
I'd
guys.
like to stay
There's Matthew van der Poel
in
just
this
whizzing
power
by,
range for as long
looking
as possible.
resplendent in rainbows. Back to the commentators.
190 to 200.
Thanks, Matt. I tell you what, we've got a rainbow jersey on the back of Mathieu van der Poel and the gold jacket for Matt Stevens. He's trying to challenge him the fashion stakes, Adam. You know that.
I mean, he's winning. It looks like a great jacket as well. I'm not sure that jersey every time, that jacket that he's gone, every time we see him, it's becoming more and more and more open. So he probably started the day thinking, oh, first day on the bike, this is lovely, nice and toasty. He's probably getting halfway through the day and thinking, oh, it's hot. Oh, it's hot, it might be too hot.
Need to wrap up warm.
Exactly, yeah. It's like when a Brit lands on holiday and they walk out the airport, it's like, oh, gosh, it's hot in it. It might be too hot.
The longer I stay in this range,
the
the more my body's going to adapt to it.
We've all done it.
Get the ice lollies out. That was Mark Renshaw Matt was talking to. His 12th Tour de France is Mark Renshaw, just his second in the team car. Matt, of course, on debut on the motorbike today. It is umpteenth Tour de France for us. 80 kilometres to go. And for Astana, Kazakhstan at the front. You wonder whether they're going to be wearing those, well, it's almost famous, isn't it, turquoise jerseys now. 19th year in the peloton. But there's talk of it becoming a Chinese-run team next year. License perhaps being either invested in or sold on. There's still a wait to see what happens and what develops on that front. But they're not moving from the front here. Arkea, they've been there for the last 50 kilometres or so in their red jerseys. Ineos with Castro Viejo at the front, just trying to make sure that Musette's not in the way. He's grabbed his lunch now. And he was busy signing a new contract, wasn't he, yesterday?
He was, yeah. I mean, the contracts are getting longer and longer and longer. You never hear of a 1 or 2 year contract anymore. They're all sort of 3-4 years minimum at the moment, which is, as a bike rider, brilliant. But just interesting to note there, Rob, something we picked up on throughout this Tour de France so far is Remco's not had that Visma UAE sort of team like we've seen from those two teams around him too much in these situations. You know, he's always been a bit further back, but today he's got them all there, right up around the front, protecting him well. The chances of crosswind, the chance of a split maybe, he is right up towards the front. If you compare that to the likes of Tadej Pogacar, he's got two teammates, one highlighted there, Pavel Sivakov, and then one more rider up to him. Tadej is just on his own, just behind him, not too far away, but if you look at all those helmets, no more yellow helmets around him, not really with all that big team around him like you see Visma and Soudal Quickstep have.
Does that indicate to you that they don't believe anything's going to happen here?
They do, but also Tadej is so good at this. You know, we saw it when it split a few days ago when he was able to get himself in that split. No other teammates around him. Yes, it's stressful for the team. It's down the radio, but like, you need to get back to Tadej. You need to get back to Tadej just in case. But when you've got a rider like Tadej, we discussed this on the breakaway, is that on a day like today, you can almost just say, Tadej, you be where you know you need to be. Put yourself into that position, then it's up to the teammates to follow. You know, look where Tadej is and always try and get to him, because he, as I said, he can save so much energy without relying on those 2-3 riders in front of him to position him, that he can do it easier on his own. So then it's up to the teammates to make sure they're there, not the other way around in this instance.
Binny needs a new back wheel. That's a quick change. Biniam Girmay on that nice green bike for the green jersey.
There's more and more green on him every day.
But he's more and more comfortable every day in that competition, is he? He's looking every bit like a green jersey champion, and it's only stage 10.
He's been fascinating this tour. I think the second stage that he won, Rob, up that climb, more suited to him, what we expected from him. But that first stage in these fast sprints, he is surprising me how, I'm not going to say how quick he is, because he's always been quick, but how he's competing with the likes of the Groenewegens, the Cavendish, because he's always been there, but not quite on that super fast level.
We'll come back to Binny in a minute. Here's UA on the radio.
Come a little bit back. We don't need to push.
Is that the voice of Pogacar?
Yeah, that is the voice of Pogacar. So just saying, just come a little bit back. We don't need to pull. Look at the teams on the front. Visma Lease bike, Soudal Quick-Step up there, Ineos up there as well. You know, 3 of the big GC teams. No Red Bull to see around there with Roglic. But Tadej just looking after his teammates. Come back, save some energy, get in the wheels, don't stress. Having that in your ear from your team leader who's leading the Tour de France. Oh, the relax, like you must feel so calm after that. You're like, oh, thank God I don't have to ride on the front, number 1. But just the confidence that he's bringing you is brilliant.
This is David Gaudu. Bit of afters from lunchtime. I'm sure we're going to see Groupama tomorrow in that breakaway with as many riders as they can, and if not, there'll be a very angry Marc Madiot, although it won't be the first time we've seen that.
Yeah, I think especially, you know, after a rest day yesterday, today for those guys, relatively easy day, nothing much to stress about. Stay safe coming into the final as well, and really attack tomorrow hard. The amount of gels these lot must get through, Rob. I mean, a dentist's dream, really. We laugh, but it's true.
Yeah. I mean, even just as a, you know, riding your bike around, I used to have a lot of these things before, you know, you sort of get into biking, and I was told off by the dentist for having things like this.
Who was it the other day? There was one of the riders who had a wisdom tooth problem, and they were blaming it on the wisdom teeth, saying he's in a bit of pain. And we sort of laugh at it. If anyone has that wisdom tooth problem, you know how painful it can be.
Oh, it's nothing to laugh at, Adam. It is nothing to laugh at.
You've had it then. But it's one of the things, you know, you're ramming, what, 9 or 10 gels probably, 6 gels, minimum 5 probably down your neck every 5 hours a day. It's not good for your teeth, plus the energy drinks.
Bit of help for Vinny. Laurence Rex is the man bringing Biniam Girmay back. Well, you talked about him. 24 now is Biniam Girmay from the Eritrean capital Asmara, and he started 2024 looking to refine the fast lane. As you said, it was that first win, not the second, that maybe was the surprise. We know he was gifted, insanely talented, as well as a hard worker, and he's from a cycling mad nation. He has been the trailblazer for Eritrean cycling in the last few years. When he won Gent-Wevelgem, Belgian press were already comparing him to Tom Boonen, so no pressure there, Girmay, eh?
I mean, the amount of times Belgian riders or any riders being compared to either Tom Boonen or Eddie Merckx, it's just, there's always a new one every year. Arnaud Delis was the next Tom Boonen for a little bit as well. There's always the next one. If I was them, I'd be like, don't compare me, I'm just me. I am what I am. But yes, there are similarities with Biniam Girmay and Tom Boonen in terms of results and how they are as riders.
Well, you feel for Biniam's younger brother, Mywhoosh. He's 18, and he's going to have quite a bit of expectation on his young shoulders. He's already riding with Intermarché Wanty's development team this season. So another of the Girmay family on their way to the professional ranks. Biniam Girmay back to the bunch. A very warm welcome back for those who've been away at the break. There was a sit-down at the end of last season with Intermarché and Biniam Girmay and his team, Adam. after that superb breakthrough in 2022, you know, there was the win in Kent-Wevelgem, wonderful stage win where he beat this man at the back, actually, Mathieu van der Poel in the Giro d'Italia. That was the Vedi Vini day, wasn't it? That was a special day.
It was a special day, and I think, you know, also beating Van der Poel in the way that he did there, it was unbelievable.
Remember the thumbs up across the line and all that sort of stuff? Oh.
I think what Rob's referring to there is Van der Poel came across the line after being beaten, and he just put his thumb up towards Vinny Gamay, and it was that sign of respect, that sign of from one of the best riders we've ever been able to watch in bike racing, put his thumb out to someone and sort of say respect. I think that enhanced that win massively and showed how impressive it was. And he's had a couple of quiet years after that, really, Vinny. He's not been like he is now. And after Gent-Wevelgem, we expected so much from him all the time. And the Giro this year, he came in, crashed out, and he has just come back. And it's safe to say the best form of his life.
Well, they did sit down at the end of last season and try to sort of reset and restart. They wanted to shake up his coaching, his training. Of course, it's a long way from Eritrea to come to racing. So when he was coming over, he was staying in hotels in Belgium and training the odd day between travelling across Europe to races. So what they're trying to do this time, according to reports in the Flemish press, both parties agreed things didn't work well in 2023. So they've been trying to get him a home in Flanders, not too far from Leuven, Adam, which is a part of Belgium you know well as well. He's coached by a man who doesn't live far. Remember the former rider Frederik Verkelen? He coaches Biniam Girmay. As we see a change of bike here for Oliver Nase, another man who's been the king of Belgium before. He's been the Belgian champion. And yet they wanted to reduce the days where Girmay felt away from home, where he was staying in hotels. So they've got him a house in Leuven so he can spend extended periods in Europe, let's say during the classics or something like that, regular training. Plus, when he's been training at home in Eritrea, which they also want him to carry on doing, one, because he has a young family, two, because it's altitude training. Exactly. And they've sent riders to go and stay with him. Rein Tarame actually went and did an extended camp earlier in the season. So he's also always got training partners as well as the local peloton, which is a very competitive bunch. You've got a few different riders on different teams in and around Asmara. It's not like he's riding on his own, but a few teammates out there as well. And it has all come together spectacularly this year with Girmay at this tour.
It is, yeah, and everything you've just mentioned there, Rob, you know, it's as Geraint and Luke say within their podcast, what's occurring, setting the foundations, you know, and that's what it is in terms of the hotels, getting him in a house over in Belgium. It's so he can have his family there, you know. You have to remember they're all humans, and a happy human is generally a better human. And I think as a bike rider, you spend so much time away, training camps, etc. And say for the classics, like you mentioned there, Rob, a lot of the riders who even live in mainland Europe, they're almost forced to stay up in Belgium for that 3.5 week period, living out of a suitcase. The riders from Belgium, they get to nip off after the race, straight back home, come back again 2 days before the race maybe. So for Biniam just to have that opportunity to go back and have his family over and just relax and not have that big pressure of the team around you, because even when you are in the hotel, you know, you've got media come in, there's people that know they're staying outside asking for pictures all the time and all that kind of stuff. So it's hugely important for his success, I'd say, that they can do everything around him and let him have that time back in Eritrea as well.
Well, talking about being at home, being an altitude camp, you know, and I say that in inverted commas, it's a free altitude camp because you're not having to go away and spend time away from your family to be at altitude. So that helps, because Asmara, capital of Eritrea, sits at over 2,300 meters. It is the 6th highest capital city in the world and the 2nd highest in Africa after Addis Ababa. Wow. So it's a great place to train. Apparently the roads are fantastic to keep training, and he has all the climbs and roads that he has to do his efforts.
Also to note, the King also just messaged me then, well, messaged the group and just said to keep control of him as well. I think, you know, we can look into that in terms of to keep control of him. He doesn't seem like a wild party animal, but he can get the benefit of motor pacing, he can get the benefit of massage from the Swan years, everything else. It's, yeah, great decision from the team.
Dylan Groenewegen, first, with what confidence are you guys coming into the second week after already having a stage win in the pocket?
Yeah, it's good to start stage 10 like this with already a victory on board. But we are also motivated for the next one, and we also know that today it's flat. It's something for the sprinters, and yeah, we are really focused on that one.
And if we look at the run-in, it looks way more technical than the previous bunch sprint. Can you try to explain the differences of today's run-in compared to the other days?
Yeah, you need to be, I think in a good position in the corners. I think there were really good corners, but yeah, we need to be in good position there, and yeah, we know what to do.
In Eurosport, we have a little predictor game where we every day have to pick a stage winner. Me and Bobby Draxel, your countryman, we picked you today. Was that a good idea?
I hope so. I feel really good, and also the rest of the day yesterday was not really important. So yeah, that's a good sign, and yeah, we're looking forward to today.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
Hannes Milk in conversation with Bruce Wayne there. He hasn't quite yet got his Batman mask on. Did we get to the bottom of why that was as we welcome Robbie McEwen?
Hello, Rob. Hello, Adam. Get to the bottom of why he hasn't got it on, or why he has?
No. Was it Aero Games? Was it the sun? Was it because he wanted to feel like a superstar?
I've read it's an Aero-inspired idea.
Oh, no. It's at Skycon website, who the glasses are made from. It's to stop the rain. You know, with the nose pieces on your glasses, it's to stop the rain going into that part. So
come on. But there were sunny days when he had them on, though.
I know, well, exactly that. I mean, it must be through Aero Games, but what they're saying is it's to stop the rain going in between where the glasses sit on your nose, which sounds daft to me. And he's not got them on there, but he is racing in them.
Well,
so he's got a plastic gutter on his nose, basically.
All I got to say is I'm not a fan of it, and I'm glad I was never in a position to be under pressure to wear something like that. I mean, I've worn some dodgy choices over the years. Probably
Adam does that every day.
Yeah, but he's the only man on earth that can pull them off. We look at it and go, couldn't wear that. You look at Adam and go, gee, looks good.
Oh, you're a love, aren't you, Robbie? Thank you.
No, there's some things that you get from, because within a team you've got to use what is supplied by the team, and sometimes you think, oh, I don't want to wear that, but you have to. Had some dodgy ones over the years. I'll spare you the details and spare the sponsors any ridicule.
I was going to say, there's one thing when you join certain teams, is when if you go from one team to another and you're really used to a kit and you feel comfortable in your kit, you sometimes go to a new team and you just get stuff which you can't use anything other than that. You have to use that, whatever it is, glasses, socks, bar tape, whatever it is, and you know that it's horrific and it feels horrific, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, there is. I used to source my own chamois, so that the padding that's in the shorts, I used to source my own from a manufacturer, have the ones that came in the team shorts removed, and have my preferred ones put in.
There's a lot of Cadell Evans used to do that as well.
Copied me.
Yeah, probably did, yeah.
Sometimes it's effective and you just get on with it. It might well be effective. We will wait to say. I'm not going to be the judge, and I'm certainly not going to speak as anybody with a position of authority, but subjectively I'm going to say something that I think Robbie will appreciate, being from Australia. I know producer Doug will, being a cricket man, as will Jonathan, but it looks village, doesn't it? Absolutely village.
I haven't heard that one.
Seriously?
Jono definitely heard it.
Enlighten me.
Go on, Jono.
Well, there's a great Instagram page of That's So Village, and it's just all of the clips from just deeply average cricket being played, and village cricket is that's why it just looks village. It just looks a bit rubbish.
Okay, that's the way I was leaning. I was thinking it must be something small time, not making the grade.
Doesn't
well,
make
you
the
make
grade
such a
at all.
journey over here. We thought it'd be worth you learning something while you're over, Robbie.
Well, you know me, Rob, in one ear and out the other.
Anyway, on a more serious note, we were talking about being away from home now, and of course you travelled to the other side of the world during your career. You set up home in Belgium more or less full-time, didn't you? And I imagine that must have been a hugely important thing to you, to feel like you're at home when, you know, you were maybe being able to be home for 1 or 2 days a week between races.
Yes, I was 16,000 kilometres from home, but I did, set my my home up in Belgium, just outside the hometown of my wife, Angelique. And
I was going to say, you went the whole hog and got a Belgian wife and everything, didn't you?
Made me feel at home. But I lived there for 16 years, and you know, it's funny. Belgium is underrated because most riders go there at a time of season, early season races, when the weather's quite often poor. It's windy, it's rainy, it's cold. You're riding rough roads, cobbles. Feel like, oh, they sort of get this PTS from being in Belgium and never want to go back there. When you live there all the time, you choose which roads you ride on, and you get nice days of weather, quite like you do in southern England, through most of the year, and it's really quite pleasant, as well as being an absolute cycling mecca. Everyone loves it, so that has its pros and cons as well. Like you were saying about people knowing which hotel the teams were staying at and sort of wanting autographs, photos, etc. In Belgium, everybody's a cycling fan pretty much, and you go out for a quiet coffee or for dinner, and you do sometimes get, or often get the fans getting involved.
It's brilliant. I love Belgium.
Yeah, what a place. One of those places that if I hadn't been into cycling, I probably wouldn't have visited or been lucky enough to visit. And I think it is a fantastic place to visit.
Yeah, most people only see it between Paris and Amsterdam.
66 kilometres to go. And we're on our way to a point where there's going to be a slight change of direction. And a lot of teams have been talking about this.
There is, Rob, and they get into this. There's a small town coming up, Isordun, I believe it is. I probably said that incorrectly, but 62 k's to go, so you can see the teams now. After that town, the direction changed ever so slightly, but obviously they can't wait until they change direction to get in that position. So they have to do so beforehand. That's why we've seen them for the past, 20k all riding towards the front, 15k trying to hold that position, make sure they're in that position. We heard Arkea Samsek say stay in that position.
Talking about intent, I was just looking at them.
Astana as well, Mark Renshaw on the radio saying hold that position, so it's hugely important, a long way out.
And there's been a change in the demeanour of UAE Emirates because Niels Pollitt has moved up into what is now a block of 4 riders, Robbie, and they're right through the centre. If you remember, about 10 kilometres ago, Adam remarked on this, there was a radio communication. It came from Pogačar, and it was saying to Sivakov, don't ride on the front. But what's Sivakov doing now? Number 15 on his back. He is riding right at the front to keep them there now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not about how much you ride on the front. It's when. You've got to be very strategic about where you use your powers. And the fact that Tadej Pogačar is sitting on the wheel of Niels Pollitt, who's the man in the wheel of Sivakov right in the middle of the road, says that it is time to use some of that energy and just position Pogačar as best you can in safety. Jonas Vingegaard, he's riding, well, second and a half position. You could say not even third position. He's ranging up just next to his teammate, who's Wout van Aert next to him. Sorry, not Wout van Aert. It's oh my eyes! Oh dear! Oh, sorry.
It's
yeah.
Bad Lemon.
It's Lemon. Number 6. That 6 was looking like an 8, but it just doesn't look like Wout van Aert, and it had the wrong helmet.
There's too many of them helmets now in the peloton, isn't there?
Well, Barrett Lemon does have his wings, though, because he's a former military man who's been in the Air Force.
Oh, there you go. Great segue.
Oh, the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe riders aren't far behind either.
But as you said, Rob and Adam, even though it's not blustery, it's not gale force winds by any standard, there's enough that it's just making sure that everybody's on edge.
And that's the thing, it's just that stress throughout this peloton, especially at moments like this, leading into a town and then coming out the other side, the direction changing. Maybe nothing will happen, but it only takes one rider to start accelerating with his team on the wheel, and that can just cause havoc throughout the peloton. Riders not expecting it, little splits happening, a GC rider caught behind a sprinter. It just echoes all the way through the peloton.
We're going to go to the radio, I think, in a minute with Lidl Trek.
And as we already thought, all the teams will be nervous, so they will drag race to there, and for sure one team will try. But for the moment, yeah, the wind is not really strong.
The words of Steven de Jong there talking to Lidl Trek, and here we go. There's an acceleration at the front of the bunch with Ineos Grenadiers, just as that was about to come up.
Yeah, Steven de Jong mentioned there's going to be a drag race. Well, here it is. Astana left, Ineos towards the middle with UAE. And just Jonas Vingegaard and the rest of his teammates not following the acceleration by Bart Lemme, but just slotting themselves in. But it's so often like this, isn't it? It's a drag race to the corner and then nothing happens. But it's always the just in case. And often team directors, their next message will be, okay, nothing happened there, but good, you're in position. Don't let your guard down. Be ready for the next point that we've identified that could happen.
That was Wilco Kelderman, who wasn't closing the wheel, by the way, to Bart Lemon. On the right-hand side, you can see the white jerseys of both Remco Evenepoel, surrounded by his blue and white jersey teammates. The white jerseys of UAE looking after the yellow jersey. On the right now, you've got Castro Viejos and that one-year extension through the middle for Ineos Grenadiers. And it's Vingegaard himself who has to bring himself to the front. And it's all across the road again at the moment. Now they move, as we look at it on the right-hand side. Evenepoel moves up as well. Both occupying different space of the road because you've got this road furniture 2 coming up. And the nerves have been dialed up to 10 now.
And even though there's not a lot of wind, it tells you a lot about the direction that it's coming from, because Jonas Vingegaard with Matteo Jorgensen moved from what is for them the right side of the road, left of our picture. They moved all the way across the other side to take up the most sheltered side and the teams that they believe can be the most aggressive. But Pogacar, he stuck to the other side, the opposite, with his teammates. Tim Wellens, the man on the front, in front of Niels Pollitt.
He is, yeah. They're on a ring road just around this town now that they go around. They come out of this, they head left ever so slightly, and that's when the crosswind starts.
It's been a sleepy siesta sort of day, but it's time to wake up because the wind is blowing, the nerves are dialed right up to the max. Whether something happens or not, we're not sure, but we will be watching. They are certainly watching, and each and every rider worth their salt at the Tour de France knows now they have to be at the front, and crucially too, they could do with a teammate or two.
You need a teammate in this situation, unless you can benefit like we've seen Tadej Pogacar do in the past, where you can just hop on different wheels, but you do need teammates there. Just in case anything happens, a puncture, anything like that, you need that support. Or if you're at the back of an echelon and the last man there and you're not getting let in, that is dangerous. But you have to notice here, Rob, as well, we've heard how important it is for the sprint teams today. All the teams that we're seeing on the front, all GC teams, this will be something that the sprint teams talked about within their directors meeting this morning. Use the GC teams to your advantage. The more men we can save going into that lead out will be massively beneficial, and you can just see it towards the front. There's not many sprint teams kicking around up there. It's riders that want to be on the good side of a split. We can see Alpecin with Philipsen right up towards the front, but they're not riding on the front, although they are accelerating to get there right now.
Loads of road furniture in and around this ring road on the outskirts of town as well. If you missed the wrong island, you were suddenly back 100 metres. Everything goes into play here, and everything is trying to be micromanaged as much as possible from the cars. Nowadays with the street view, the velo view, but it is impossible to control every single moment in the race, Robbie. Although UAE are trying to here with Wellens and Pollitt.
At the moment, they are in control, but that can shift so very quickly to another team who makes their move at exactly the right moment to take over control. Another hop over the roundabout. It's good for the riders that it's pretty flat on the edges, just a little bunny hop up onto those pavers and back off and ride a straight line through it. But, that's the thing with having this velo view, or all the technology that everybody can see every detail of the course. Everybody knows the same thing at the same time, and we've said this so many times before, it can make it more treacherous, more dangerous, because everybody's trying to do the same thing at the same time. There's some real basic tactics within cycling. So the directors are giving the same instruction to all of their teams, and that's when it gets sketchy.
You've even got Groupama FDG here, who've no GC guy, no rider who can win in a sprint today, but just in case there's a split, they're there at the front as well with Stefan Kung.
We have to remember from that interview we heard that Anders did with Mark Cavendish, he said it was unexpected and it was probably the smallest group he'd ever come to the finish line with in a Tour de France. If FDJ can get in on that and a small group goes away, they've got a good chance of victory out of a small group, so they want to be there, they want to be represented, they want to be able to give themselves that chance.
Now, if it was UAE a moment ago with Wellens, it's another Belgian. It's Benoit who's there for the peacock-clad Visma Lease bike team, looking after Jonas Vingegaard, constantly looking around to make sure his teammates are on the wheel and surveying any damage done. Look at Evenepoel and the effort he's having to make on his own in the wind there, Robbie, on that side.
With a teammate in his wheel, so he's just taking things into his own hands. And Moscon's supposed to be the one keeping him out of the wind, but remember, because this is the moment, just had to go. He got himself onto the wheel of Tadej Pogacar. Kwiatkowski brings the Ineos Grenadiers back around. Now also, this is that sort of washing machine effect we often see coming in towards a bunch sprint. They just keep coming up and around. The right side is the windy side. Left more protection. Yeah, they're absolutely flying. And look how small and compact that group is at the front. And then they're straggling behind, the line stretching out.
Look at the flags here. The wind is coming from right to left as we look at it, travelling at almost 20 kilometres per hour. And if you're losing out at the back here, you are in danger of being distanced. 60 to 70 k's an hour at the front here, Adam. It's open, it's exposed. For first time, the echelon alarm is sounding.
The echelon alarm is sounding, but look where Van der Poel is. You can see how strung out it is, but look at the peloton as well, Rob. That is just down to that stress through going through that town. It's not necessarily when they get out the other side, they're able to tell very, very quickly, the riders. They know if it's going to split. That wouldn't happen. If it was going to split now, that peloton would have started splitting already, as soon as they come out of the shelter, and it's not doing just because the wind isn't so strong. So that stringing out we've seen is just through the stress of going through that town. We saw how narrow it was, we saw the road furniture, but each team has to commit to doing that on each of these points, because if they don't and it does split, then it could be game over.
Robbie, you look like you're doubting something there.
Well, I was just looking as that peloton was strung out doing 70k an hour. I was looking at the flags that were on the side of the road, the fanned flags. The wind, the forecast and the current conditions tell us it's coming from the rider's right-hand side. But those flags were just blowing in the direction of the peloton. But because that shot was taken from the back, that's the peloton making its own wind direction as it comes past, and basically just sucking the flags in the direction they're going with the breeze that the peloton creates on its own. It's not hugely windy though. It's only 16k an hour.
I didn't see the combine then.
Well, if it was really windy...
I thought that we're in Kansas for a minute then. I thought there was a twister on the way.
No, Toto. If there was really windy, that dust would be blowing really away from the harvester very quickly, and it would have been completely visible. So that just says, and you look at the peloton now, spread across the road, riders looking around, and just the posture of the riders, like Tim Wellens, sitting up nice and tall, getting his breath back after that last sort of battle for position and an if, but, and maybe moment, but there just wasn't enough wind.
Stand down for now then. And look at the pace difference. 49 k's an hour. Adam, I know that you were making all sorts of noises as they were coming through then, and you were looking at the speed, getting excited. No wonder, because there was a 7 is the front number there instead of a 4 or a 5.
Now it's back to the speed that Adam takes a drink at.
Yeah, exactly.
When he's out riding.
Steady, but not flat out. No, that's a lie. I'd be flat out doing 40k an hour at the minute. No, it's calmed down a lot, and I think even you can tell, as Robbie was saying, by the body language, little bits of chats going on here and there. So it is calm within that peloton now. You can see the direction they're going in. They're going to be going in this direction for a long time. But we saw the teams that are at the front doing it. We saw the GC teams, the general classification teams, all right up there, wanting to make sure they're not missing a split if it was windy enough out the other side of that town. We've not seen the sprint teams come to the front yet, really trying to dominate. You know, we've not seen them trying to position for the lead-outs. Yes, we saw Astana go into the town first. We saw Alpecin trying to get up there. But the closer we get to the finish, the more aggressive it's going to be in that peloton for positioning to try and get to the front.
It's the situation at the front now. And as they've stood down, we'll go off for a quick commercial break if you're watching on telly. Derek G on your screen, third the other day. This is Carlos Berona through the centre as well, alongside Ben Turner. Tom Pidcock tucking into some late lunch, and Carlos Rodriguez checking his numbers.
Well, Rob, just going back to what Adam was saying a moment ago about the sprinters teams, and here is one of the sprinters, Dylan Groenewegen on the left, number 23 in the Dutch champions jersey. We didn't see the sprinters teams at or on the front sort of hovering a little bit further back, but still paying attention. But the advantage those guys have, there's twofold that they don't need to do what the GC teams are doing. For one, if something's starting to happen, the lead-out man, the sprinters, they have that really punchy acceleration. We see Luke Durbridge just motioning to Dylan Groenewegen, come out this side, but we are going to move up a bit. But they've got that acceleration. They can make an effort and they can close a gap. They can move themselves up with one explosive effort. You ask a more pure climber to try and do that while things are splitting, they just can't. They just do not have the horsepower to then punch it up to 65, 70k an hour and get themselves in a good position. And the other thing with the sprinters teams, they do not want to be on the front riding, using resources now for safety's sake, because they're trying to save everybody for that final 10 kilometres when it becomes really critical.
Just mentioning Groenewegen there as well. It's interesting that Simon Yates came here for GC. I think we're going to be excited about what he's got to offer. Remember in the Giro a few years ago, because when he's after stages, he can really make a race exciting. Alongside Richard Carapaz as well. I'm looking at tomorrow. Very hard day in the saddle. A lot of climbing towards the end of the stage. Be exciting to see if those two try to maybe look at getting themselves back up in GC a little bit, or if they just focus on stages. And I honestly hope that they just go for stages, because it's brilliant for us watching at home.
Well, there should be allowed leeway to get up the road tomorrow, because Simon Yates is at almost 16 minutes, 15:57 to be precise. And the former yellow jersey now, he had it on, what was it, day 3, Richard Carapaz. He, well, is almost 18 minutes down, 17:53. So there should be an opportunity to get up the road without anybody panicking.
If you've got the legs to do it, and that seems so far to have been the problem for Simon Yates. We normally see him really on his game from day one in a Grand Tour, and he has shown before. He did it in the Giro. He was absolutely on fire, unbeatable for a couple of weeks, and then buckled. This time here, he hasn't shown anywhere near the sort of form that we've become accustomed to. Even look back at last year when him and his brother were off the front. Was that into Bilbao?
First day, Bilbao,
that was day one, yes.
Front.
That was day one. The tour's back underway. It's day 10 today. On paper, the easiest stage of the whole tour. That, of course, if the wind isn't blowing. It is blowing a little bit, but it's a tailwind at the minute, so no real action here. We started in Orléans. Just keep your eye on this, because there's a bit of a change of direction.
Yeah, now they'll pick up that tailwind. You just saw the flags on top of those campers. It looked like out of this turn, it'll go full tailwind behind them. More or less full tailwind.
52 k's to go, plenty of changes of direction. After they began in Orléans, they've been making their way down south, and they're on their way to Saint-Amand-Montrond. Wonderfully named town, home of Julien Alaphilippe, by the way. And I say wonderfully named because it's one of those places that illustrates the linguistic liaison in French, where you'll get to link consonants with vowels, and one word is linked to another, and they're connected, and it sounds much more melodic, doesn't it? So you've got like a T and an A there. Really helps French as a language to flow. So Saint-Amand-Montrond is the destination today. 187 k's, just under 1,000 meters of climbing. And one man who was riding with the very best at the weekend, hoping to be there today, is this man.
Another opportunity today for the sprinter.
Yeah, I think today is a really nice chance for us. It's also a crosswind, so it will be a really nervous day. It will be really hard, warm day, so I think there are many engines want to blow off today in the crosswind and also with the heat, so it can be a super nice and hard day today.
It seems that you're improving sprint after sprint. Is it what you think too?
Yeah, I think I had to get self-confidence back in the last week because my year was not so good so far, but I still think I can win my stage, and I'm really sure I win my stage here, so the legs are fine. Why I shouldn't believe in myself.
What do you think about the past sprints with guys like Binyam Girmay? We didn't expect to have this guy in a bunch sprint, you know. What do you think about the sprint since the beginning of the Tour?
Yeah, I think there is a rule in the Tour de France peloton. If you win one stage, you mostly win more stages. So actually the first sprinter who wins a stage is mostly the guy who wins the most stages, because he just knows I can do everything. So now we have to beat him, and then we can do it.
Thank you, Pascal.
Well, he's done it in the past, has Pascal Ackermann. Believe it or not, it's actually his Tour de France debut. He's been changing teams and hopping around, trying to be selected for this, the biggest race. He can do it. He's done it at the Vuelta, he's done it at the Giro, but it's been just over a calendar year since Pascal Ackermann's last victory. To give him some sort of faith and hope, think back to the Giro last year. It had been ages since he'd won again, he'd been nowhere near, and suddenly popped up and won a stage out of nowhere. So he can be with the very best on his day.
Rob, I think, you know, even this Tour de France, from what we've seen of Pascal Ackermann in the last few years, he is motoring. You know, I think he was 4th or 5th on the day that Guimai won. So he's right up there. He's got the form to be able to do so. So, yeah, stage, Robbie's pointing to now, stage 8, he was 4th. So, yeah, the man's got the engine to do so at the minute, and he was up there on the stage that Cavendish won. He would joked around after, saying he led Cav out. But he's been up there, you know, and like we've spoken about earlier with Carlton about who's the favourite for today. If you go on results, we can go for Guimai because he's won the majority of the sprint so far. But he's been consistently up there, Ackermann, and it just takes everything to go right for him just to get that shot at the line. And with so many riders similar to where he is, in terms of everything has to go right, they have to get the run into the finish, etc. He's got a great opportunity to do so, but everything must go right down to the tee for him to be able to get that, I think.
There's just so many riders you could pick off the start list who truly have the potential to win this stage. Not as really outsiders that you'd be shocked. You'd say, okay, haven't seen him win for a while, but the type of person you would say, but has always had the speed to do this. But people who have, riders who have beaten everybody who's in this field at some point or another, but not done it on the roads of the Tour de France, and not when they're all together. But it is sometimes just about getting that little run of, let's call it luck, but getting a run of things not going wrong.
Well, he's experienced enough now, 30 years of age. Stage wins in the Vuelta and the Giro, as I mentioned. 40 wins in his career. He knows the game, does Pascal Ackermann. Sitting close to the front, not too far from Derek G and Jakob Fuglsang.
A man who I think in this race, and the riders we've spoken about so far, similarly underrated like Pascal Ackermann, is Phil Bauhaus. If he popped up and won today, I think the initial reaction by a lot of people would be, wow, there's an outsider, didn't expect that. Then you look back through recent results, you go, oh, fair enough. We should have mentioned him. Anyway, now we have, just in case. No,
I'd like to see you getting that in just in case.
but it's true. A guy like Bauhaus has the credentials. He's won big races, so why not here in the Tour? Arnaud Démare has done it before. Remember Vittel, Sagan ejected from the race, Cavendish in a horrendous-looking fall. Fernando Gaviria just pulling over another guy. He's won at the Tour de France before. He's won at the Giro, and he's been close already in this Tour. Yeah. There's a lot of guys you could just look and go, oh yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. One of the bits I'm just looking at now is the same teams are on the front as usual, but the road has got significantly narrower. It's not narrow in terms of Belgium roads narrow, but it has narrowed down. So that will push the peloton into a longer line. So the further you are back now, the even harder it's going to be to move up because there's less space. And there's a point with 43 Ks to go where they turn a little bit more into that cross tailwind, and it stays roughly the same as well. So not massively wide. I don't think we've got to stress about the wind too much. But if we have a look where riders are, teams are, lead-out men are, we look where they're sat in the peloton at the minute, that carries on for quite a while. And as we all know, within the Tour de France, the positioning has started already for the sprint for a lot of the teams. We saw Astana on the front way back. See riders waving again now, some road furniture coming up, which will string the bunch out even more as they go through this part and over this, as Danny likes to call it, a river bridge. It's going to become increasingly more difficult and harder and almost, well, not almost, they will be using more energy to move up coming into the sprint. We've seen Van der Poel at the back. He can position himself quite easily, but you tell me where he's going to go at the minute. He's got to wait for an opening, then he's got to use that extra energy to get there. He's got to lead Philipsen out at the finish. Philipsen's not had a stage win yet. Van der Poel, for me, has not been the lead-out man he was last year. So you'd be thinking with the stress of everything, I know he's the world champion, and I'm using him as an example now, there's plenty more. Get at the front, get in position. Jasper, you've not won a stage yet. We've not taken control yet. Get into position now, save that energy for the final, so you're not running that risk of having to do more than what you need to. And if you look at that, they were there before, but where they're at now, I know it's Van der Poel and there are others, like you say, but I'd start to question it a little bit. You know, you'd be like, can we please sit at the front, safer?
I think a run-in like today suits them better as a team, with that technicality in the last kilometre, that sort of triangle shape that we ride. I think that's going to suit Alpecin de Koning just perfectly.
Issue for Stefan Kung here. Chains off. And Adam's off as well, by the way. I know the football's back on tonight, isn't it? Spain and France, and the fourth official's just turned up with the substitutes board. He's holding up number 67, Adam Blythe. And, oh, it's a number 1. Mr. Kelly's back. Sean Kelly, welcome back.
Hello. Hi, all.
Hello,
How's it been? I bet you've been...
Bobby.
I bet you've not been able to take your eyes off this so far today.
Well, it's been a long, drawn-out one, and we could see that right from the beginning, that it was going to be a calmer day, praying that the wind was going to get up in the last, what was it, 60 kilometres, but afraid not the case. And but you never know. We did see there was a little bit of a flush a number of times there, but short-lived, and when they realised that, yeah, there was no gain there, the teams at the front just knocked it back, and here we are, yeah, all grouped together. So it's going to be one of these crazy sprints again, because when you have a day like this, rest day yesterday, there's going to be a lot of fellas with good legs here in the end, and when you look at this run-in, organisers, I was wondering what they're thinking here, the way they put in that, you know, that dangerous finish inside the final kilometre, where they looked like it could have went straight on.
Well, it did, and we said this 11 years ago when they did exactly the same thing, and the roundabout that's on that stretch of road coming in towards the finish, you could not navigate a peloton through it at full speed. Then the questions are asked, like, well, okay, why not finish before that roundabout and before they take that deviation around a triangle shape? Well, they need the room for all the infrastructure at the finish, and it has to be where it is, but it's certainly a very tricky one.
Let's go to Matt on the bike.
Bit of a road service update for you now. These are narrower roads. Just heard Adam talking about the fact they're narrow roads. They are significantly narrower. There's a lot of fresh chippings on the road. You probably won't be able to see it. And on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, there's a lot of loose chippings, almost like gravel. Very, very sketchy indeed. I've just seen Fernando Gaviria stopping for a call of nature before things kick off for the end. Also, Biniman Grimay also been taken back by a teammate. But for me, the concern is, if you're on the far left or the far right now, this is continuing. There's a lot of loose chipping, so riders have got to be really, really aware of the left and the right-hand side. It's continued now for at least 2 kilometres or so. That's a chipping update for you. I'm sure that Colin would love that one. Back to the commentators.
Chipping update. We might get the shipping forecast next time. That was interesting, though. I mean, they had, what, a proper gravel stage the other day. There's a bit of stealth gravel there, Robbie.
Yeah, give us a bit more. One of the best stages I've ever seen. One of the few stages that I've stayed glued to it for the entire thing, start to finish, and not missed a beat.
You normally switches off,
stage.
do you?
Now and again, yeah, I'll take a little break, a mini break.
Fair dues.
I was just wanting to go back to when we saw Stefan Kung a few moments ago on the side of the road, problem with his chain. Sean, were you the sort of bloke who would have done what Kung did and just grabbed the oily chain with your hands and strung it back on, or would you have waited for the mechanic and let him do his work?
Went for the oily hands.
Thought so.
Well, I think, you know, you like to just be in control yourself there. When it's a chain off, you know, it's not a difficult one for a for a bike rider to do, and again the car comes to you, you're probably back and moving before that even happens, so get back in there. But we often see riders there, you know, they make the amateur mistake where they puncture on a normal flat road and they just pull over, and their team cars maybe, you know, 18th or 20th position. As it is here, it goes on the general classification. A team car could be a long ways off, and you know, in the panic situations more so where they stop a bit too early. But no, I would go for the oily hands.
Yeah, well, in that case of the, like you say, puncturing team car way back, you've lost yourself a minute before the car even gets near you. But I was just thinking too, the mechanic might prefer for the rider to wait, because in Stefan Kung's case, grease all over the hands, then he's back onto the white handlebar tape. Now the mechanic says, and now I have to change the handlebar tape.
And some of the mechanics don't like working too hard.
Oh, you're making some enemies there. You can tell you don't have team mechanics anymore, Sean, because a comment like that during your race days, oh, that would have consequences.
Well, I said it during my racing days, because we had some pretty poor ones.
Now, in defence of the mechanics, aren't they the first up and last to bed?
Yes, that's true. Tour de France and any race of 3 weeks is a difficult one for all the personnel, because it is, you know, early mornings, getting ready, getting all the bikes pumped up, wheels, bikes on the cars, all of that. Then you do the stage, and then you have to start all over again, washing the bikes. If you're the wash guy, and then the mechanics that check all the bikes and go through them all, and yeah, check the tires to make sure that there's no damage to the tires. It is a demanding job, but they know that when they're going in there. And yeah, there's some mechanics in some of the smaller races, especially in my time, you get very often you could get a dirty bike when you'd be in a lower level of race.
Or showing disrespect.
I had given you an opportunity to bring it back then, but you just got the shovel and started digging deeper again. That's Christoph Rodoft, sports director from Alpecin de Koning, handing out the Vidon. And this is the man he hopes will be sprinting to victory later on, Jasper Philipsen.
I was starting to worry a little bit earlier. Sorry, Rob. I was starting to worry a little bit earlier after watching the intermediate sprint earlier, where there was that very small incident between Philipsen and Gourmet. Although I still believe Gourmet just got himself on the wrong side where there was never going to be space, and he sort of persisted a little bit too much. And no big disaster. He's only given up a couple of points. But the amount of replays I saw of it, I thought, oh, don't tell me the commissaires have gone and got involved in that. Because, you know, Philipsen, he's been relegated once already, and after that sort of thing, they tend to look at you under the magnifying glass. All smiles for Mark Cavendish there in the middle, behind Remco Evenepoel.
Did you find that, Sean, even back then, that, you know, if you made a mistake, you were sort of under the magnifying glass and they were looking to get you with what they could?
Well, you know, when you get disqualified, it depends on what the situation was at the end of the day. If you had won a stage and you got disqualified, of course you'd be really peed off and you'd give out a lot. And if you knew the commissar the next morning, you would, you know, have some words with him, and that doesn't help the situation at all, because then you're definitely under the magnifying glass. And yeah, it's a one where if you know, hold your tongue and say nothing, and you know, just take it on the cheek, because we know the commissars, they never go back at their word, so there's no point. And that was an old thing I remember from my director sportif, the team owner John de Gabaldi, who was under for many years. He said, "Dis rien, say nothing, and just get on with it." And that's what you've got to do, and that is the best way, because if you do go, you know, question the commissars, then you're going to be really under scrutiny.
And they've got the video to back it up nowadays. They can take you to the VAR van, press play, and show you where you made the infringement, I guess.
I think Jasper Philipsen, he really took it quite well in the end. You know, apologised to Wout van Aert, and he just copped it. Took it on the chin, move on, and it's been a disaster for his attempt at a follow-up green jersey in this Tour de France. Biniam Gourmet now leading by, what is it, 96 points, I think?
That was before the start
Yeah,
of the
it
day.
was
That would have been cut
98.
by a couple of points.
Oh, was it 96 or 98 this morning? So anyway, it's 2 less than it was this morning. It's still a massive gap in the green jersey competition, running out of flat stages.
I think including this one, there could be 4 remaining.
And that's the thing, 4 possibilities, but as the tour goes on, fatigue sets in, situations change. We may see 1, 2, or none of them taken by breakaways. So it's there's a lot of work to be done for that green jersey. It's not over. I'm not going to say it's been run and won, but Biniam Gourmet is in an incredibly strong position.
That's Chris Harper wearing 24. By the way, there was no coffee ride for him yesterday. He did 130 Ks.
He's a real diesel. I've read that about Chris Harper, that he goes out and does, you know, 4.5-hour rides on the rest day, efforts and just trying to stay in the rhythm and keep things ticking over. I couldn't imagine doing that on the rest day.
Well, it's a difficult one if you need, you know, 3.5, 4 hours on the rest day. You also have to think of, you know, 2 weeks of racing still to be done. But if you have that feeling, you have to get out and do a lot, otherwise you're going to feel horrible the next day. Then it's a problem one. But you know, some riders can live on very, very little, 40 kilometers maybe at a very easy pace, and other riders, you know, need a lot more. So they know their body very well, those riders. And today's stage is a one where, you know, you can't be too worried about it, because it wasn't going to be very aggressive at the start. There was all that wooded area, so you had time to get de-blocked, as they say in cycling terms. And yeah, but still some riders have to do a huge amount when you consider what Harper had to do.
Robbie, can you, for those of us mere mortals who've not been able to race, who've not been anywhere near as, you know, to sort of an elite athlete level, can you try and explain to us that sensation of being blocked that riders can feel?
Yes, and I think I've had it so many times. It is actually quite difficult to put it into words what it feels like, but you have a feeling of being seized up. Think of a rusty old piece of machinery. That's what you feel like. Maybe not so much on the first rest day of the Tour de France. You're tired, but you're not exhausted completely. Definitely second rest day. You are as a sprinter, someone who struggled in the mountains, completely busted, exhausted. And the last thing you want to do on a rest day is ride your bike. You know, you've got to do a little something. But that next day, yeah, it's like being a rusted up piece of machinery. Everything just goes stiff, and you have this feeling like your legs are no longer nice supple muscle fibres, but they've turned into 2 lumps of wood. And it's a really strange sensation. It's a horrible sensation when they're blocked. They just feel so stiff, like you cannot contract the muscles like you want. It feels like they're just constantly contracted, and the pain goes right down to your bones. But then after a certain amount of time on the bike, you never know when it's come. You hope it comes early in the stage, but after an hour, sometimes 2, suddenly it's like someone's just flicked a switch and everything opens up, and you just start pedaling nicely. You're just riding much faster with even less effort than you were using before when it just wasn't happening for you. But yeah, that blocked up, seized up feeling is really nasty, and it makes you so anxious if you've got it. You're coming towards the first climb of the day, for example, knowing I can't get dropped here. I'll be outside the time limit.
Adam's come up with one. He's watching just around the corner from you. He's probably led on the sofa in the green room, chilling out before he gets on the breakaway. You can catch, by the way, Adam, Danny, Orla and Robbie on the breakaway straight after the conclusion of today's stage. Adam says it's like a car engine. You can rev up to 8,000 RPM most days, but after the rest day, you can only rev up to 6,000 RPM. You need to keep the engine running.
6,000 would still be handy with me. It felt like someone had disconnected half of the spark plugs. See, some of our younger generation watching this to go, what's a spark plug? I drive an electric vehicle.
Just like a couple of teams in the peloton, actually. EF Education, Easy Post. They've got the pink Cadillacs, haven't they? We sent Hannah to have a look at them, by the way, and you can catch that on the Gruppetto this week on the Eurosport Cycling YouTube channel. I gather, too, that Team DSM have been using electric vehicles for a little while. range is growing now to allow them to get the full stage done.
Yeah, plenty of charging stations around. I thought you were going to break into song then, Rob, when you said Pink Cadillac.
No, you can do it for me, though, if you want. Tonight, Matthew, Robbie McEwen is going to be...
I'll spare you.
Oh, come on. Still a bit of time left, yeah? Producer Doug's just turned his camera on. He's waiting.
Well, you know, we love them for their pink Cadillac, crushed velvet seats, riding in the back, cruising down the street.
Well, that's spoken word. That's not song. Google's great, though, isn't it?
I said I'll spare you.
By the way, back to serious terms, Hannah, she is listening. She's desperate for you to sing as well. She says she believes that Uno X are also using electric vehicles.
It makes a difference if you spend any time in between the convoy when you've been dropped. I remember back to the days when teams didn't bring their own cars to the major tours, like the Giro and the Tour de France. The cars were supplied by the organisation. They were small-engined diesel vehicles. If you were dropped in the mountains and you were ever coming back through the convoy, it would be the smell of brakes, the smell of burnt clutch, and diesel fumes. It was hard enough as it was riding in the mountains without all of that. Those poor little cars, they were not fit for use anymore afterwards, but they did get sold. And anyone who thought they were getting a bargain with one of those particular models probably didn't own it for too long, or at least not in any sort of roadworthy condition. Oh, handlebar mo for Fernando Gaviria. He's serious, he means business.
We're talking about the cars, Robbie. You shouldn't be sitting in the cars. You should be in the peloton.
Not strong enough, Sean. Would if I could, but I can't. Would if I could, but I couldn't.
That just tells us how boring it is today here. Once we get into this final 30 kilometres and it's all going to kick off, but yes, it was uncomfortable, not nice at all when you were back amongst the cars and the motorbikes. When it's 35 plus degrees on those climbs, the fumes, well, you know, just choking.
This is the doctor's car. This is Sandy Dujardin. Of course, he had a real issue with his wrist the other day. I know that Sean, the day after he had a crash, you were asking me, is he starting? You sort of couldn't believe he was starting because you saw him have a real problem with his wrist. But he's hanging on, and I tell you what, he's getting some more treatment on the go.
Yes, we did see him on that stage quite a long ways out. He was being nursed along by one of his teammates, and then quite late he came in just with his teammate and looked like, you know, he was crying coming over the line. And then I see that evening that he had done the wrist, and I think a lot of pain there, and that was the reason. As much as he was thinking, yeah, will I be able to continue on in this Tour of France? So, you know, a combination of that, I think, was the reason we see the tears flowing down. But he's soldiering on here, and it's a case where we have seen many times where riders do damage, and, you know, these riders in the Tour of France, you know, they are they're tough guys, but when in the Tour of France they seem to be that bit more tough. And, you know, if it happened in a smaller race, you'd probably be gone home, but in this one it's the Tour de France.
Yeah, exactly. You'll stay no matter what the consequences of pain. But this thing with a wrist, it's something you just can't take the pressure off. You can't nurse it, otherwise you're trying to take all the pressure off one side, you're leaning to the other side, you end up twisting yourself regularly, but it goes down your body, you'll get a sore knee from sitting crooked on the bike. But one of the tricky things, and I've seen this a number of times, where riders have fallen, got a wrist injury, strapped it up, and they think there's sort of nothing to see. It sometimes only becomes evident that there's a small fracture a few days later, and that seems to be what happens quite a bit with the scaphoid bone, a very small bone in the wrist that has little to no blood flow. It's very difficult for it to heal, and I've seen riders have problems with those for months and months after the initial injury.
Well, he's 27 now, is Dujardin. It's taken him all this time in his career to get a debut in the Tour de France. He was only riding in the amateurs 3 seasons ago still. So this is, you never know, could be his only chance ever to ride the Tour. He's going to soldier on. Just over 32 kilometres remain. It's stage 10 today of the Tour. Fernando Gaviria ready for action at the back. First time back at the Tour in 6 years, when he won 2 stages, wore the yellow jersey. He's been at altitude camps this year in Sierra Nevada. He's did the Giro and the Tour. They kept him in Europe to keep him training, keep him working hard. He's been to stay at teammates' houses, train in different places. Here he is at the Tour, looking to try and get some success for Movistar. And it's been quite a few years, at least 5 since they won a stage in the Tour.
It's 6 since, I think, Gavirio's won a stage.
Yeah, this is his only other appearance in the Tour, believe it or not. He's not been back to the Tour de France since 2018 and that brilliant debut.
Yeah, won the stage, took the yellow jersey. I would only say that he doesn't really look ready for action at the moment because he was sitting almost last wheel of the entire peloton. And it's amazing to think we're only around 30 kilometres to go and hasn't kicked off yet. I mean, it does make sense because there's no one to chase, there's no crosswinds, there's no major climbs, and it's just a waiting game until we start to see that pace just gradually pick up, that early positioning to try and stick there. So we'll see the sights.
We will see the sights. Jonathan Ausbass is going to tell us about where we are, and after that, the next voice you will hear will be that of Carlton Kirby.
Well, just coming through Châteauneuf-sur-Cher, and unfortunately I don't have any notes whatsoever on this beautiful church, but it is outstandingly gorgeous, and I'm delighted that we're looking at it here. But Châteauneuf-sur-Cher, divided into 2 towns since the 13th century, and the riders now able to build some speed on the lower courses.
Thank you, John. Some top buttressing there. So, talk about support today. How useful is the lead-out train going to be with regard to just how crazy our finish is today? They could have taken it straight in, but they would have hit a roundabout. So they decided to take a diversion with around 800 metres to go, possibly a little bit more than that, doing 2 sides of a triangle and then coming back, essentially, to the road that they were on before, the D951 to be precise, and then finally unwinding with the last 500 metres to go in a straight-out dash for the line. Robbie McEwen, how many men do you need with you once you come out with 500 metres to go?
1, not more than that. Just a quick note, that was the Basilica of Notre-Dame des Enfants.
Yes.
So the Basilica of the Lady of the Children was finished building in 1879 in its neo-Gothical architecture.
Well, we're coming to Robbie for his recipe a little bit later on.
Recipe for disaster, I'm your
Beans
man.
on toast, mate. Yeah.
Vegemite. Can I offer you some Vegemite, exactly.
Meanwhile,
yes,
a little bit of a roller coaster. Got airborne. I think that was possibly just for fun. Certainly looking around to see if anybody's noticed. So,
looking for kudos there.
I think so. Our finale today, Robbie. Mad or appropriate?
It is going to be absolutely mad, especially since nothing has happened so far. Yeah. Everybody is relatively fresh.
A lot of power is there.
Yeah, there's going to be a huge push to get into that sort of safety zone for the GC riders with their teams. We've got a small climb just inside 10 kilometres to go, and of course with the downhill coming off it. And then what everybody is talking about, as we were in 2013 when Mark Cavendish won here from a very small group, when the peloton was shattered in the crosswinds, the turn off to the left at a sort of 45-degree angle at 1 kilometre to go, and they ride more or less a rounded off triangle shape to come back to the road that they were on. So it's off to the left at 45 degrees, a right-hander that sweeps around to bring them back to that main road, and then another fast-flowing left-hander onto the final straight at 500 metres to go. And that 500 metres is gently uphill, false flat, around 1.5–2%, something like that. We see, is that a rear puncture for Dilly? I think so. Looks a bit spongy to me.
Yeah, bit of a slowbie. He's going to ride on until his car gets to him. This is exactly what Sean was talking about a little bit earlier on today. Those who know to keep going until you get to service, and here it comes right now, and he's going to get rid of some ballast at the same time.
Cyclocross dismount.
Yep. 28 kilometres from home, Sean. They're in colour order. We are mixed in with the GC men as well. As you can see, Pogacar's UE Team Emirates in nursing mode. Likewise, Visma Lease bike. It's 5 kilometres today as a safety margin, Sean.
Yes, is it the 5 kilometres? Because it's been changing quite a bit, but 4 kilometres.
4. It
yes.
was declared as 5 earlier.
Well,
I heard anyway, but yes, 4.
Yes, I think it's 4, but again, we'll get clarification on that one. But yeah, this is slow burner getting up to pace here, as we can see that they're going to take it as long as possible before they really have to push on here in this final 27 plus kilometres. And the teams that are on the front, they just want to control for the moment, and as long as they're allowed to do that, and the teams as well, the riders in the front, sometimes the riders, you look, one team at the left, another team in the middle, and another team at the right hand side. They look across each other, because it gives a signal if
What up?
GC teams, they have that understanding. They just keep that pace and not really up it too much, and try and get as close to the finish before they start they get pushed by the sprinters teams wanting to take control.
Yeah, 30 minutes. It's just a free ride, so I'm just gonna poke around.
Slowly ramp up, but yeah, nothing at majorly.
What's up with you?
Fast pace when you see the rear of the peloton here.
Robbie, the last time stage 13, so presumably.
Yeah, I turned my mic up.
Presumably 3 days after the rest day. This comes directly.
You can actually hear me now.
There's a lot of power in the legs, as we've already mentioned. There's a lot of teams as well will have had a lot of time to strategize this. But do you think that there's a certain advantage? You talked about Gaviria earlier on. Somebody going solo and just making their own space and making their own luck.
Someone to go solo would have to be an incredible performance. There is a little climb, 10k to go to 2.5 kilometres, but only 2.5%. I think the speed's just going to be too high for someone to manage it. Too many freshmen on board to chase them back.
Enjoying your day off, I'm assuming.
Sorry, my mistake, Robbie. I was
got some football on.
Saying that somebody without a backup of a lead-out train, so basically surfing the wheels within the crucible of the finale.
Well, absolutely, that is a possibility. Yes. You don't necessarily have to have a lead-out train, but you do need to have a really good run at it. You can't afford to get checked in your run. You need to be able to surf your way through, find the gaps, make it all happen for yourself. But it's definitely a possibility, and Fernando Gaviria seems to do that quite often, almost alone.
NCIS, oh man.
Pascal Ackermann, with limited sprint train resources, has been doing.
I haven't seen any of those episodes in a long time.
I think the riders that we sort of sometimes see when we look at the end and say, well, he did it without a lead-out train, what we often miss in the run-in is seeing how they're utilising the few teammates they do have at their disposal. They often rely on one or two men just to keep you sheltered, just make little accelerations for you, get you up into a position where you eventually then choose a wheel to follow, and there'll be.
I'm watching the Tour de France.
Ranger types going for the wheel, for example, of Jasper Philipsen and
Stage 10. These guys are doing like a whole stage, and the time it takes me to do like 3 workouts.
Well, because of the technicality of that final kilometre, where they are generally very well organised. The ones that I think they'll be up against the most is Intermarché, because they've really now come into their own as a lead-out team. As we saw in the last win of Biniam Gourmet. They dominated the lead-out.
Well,
big confidence. They got the strut going, got their chest stuck out, because they already had a stage win by that point, and they have bossed the last one. So I think it's those two teams are really favoured to dominate through that final kilometre.
John, Chateau Mayon with this famous snooker building there.
I have no idea what connection you're making there. My brain isn't working that fast. But the lovely chapel that you might
music videos, those things are dead.
Which was built by Charles de Chaumont d'Amboise, the governor of Italy.
And if there's any music videos around, it's for terrible music.
Retained all the way through until the French Revolution, when
I have friends on my Plex server, so not that I watch it, but it's on there. I think my mother watched Friends.
And so he was able to come home, and he did so.
I had a girlfriend that was watching Friends for a while.
Very lucky there.
With his head held high, so to speak.
Yeah, still held at the same height, thankfully.
Let's hope. Oh, thank you, John. just back to that point you were making there, Robbie. Mark Cavendish, it's absolutely, absolutely right here. Let's get this first.
And then we make sure with that nervous final that we stick together, that we don't get on the back foot. Good job so far.
There we are, don't get on the back foot. Danny Van Poppel with some hope. Primoz Roglic wanted to stay where he should, safe. Just back to that point, Mark Cavendish, you're absolutely right. He was first to laud it as we see Didi. A couple of new knees and a couple of new hips. A couple of
I didn't realize my kit was going to be so see-through.
Yeah, Mark
But it
Cavendish
is
saying
white.
that
And I am sweating.
to his teammates, despite the fact, as you quite rightly
The other
said,
angle looks so bad.
he looked to have finished almost alone.
He did. I mean, he did it himself within that final kilometre. But before that, from 30 kilometres to go, his team looked after him so very well. It looked initially like it might be a bit early, using so much energy.
I miss old MTV, man.
In the end, and he was able to get the job done.
TRL and
You know, sometimes when the plan
actually seeing some decent music.
precisely, you need to be able to switch to plan B and do your own thing. And Mark is very, very good at that.
They used to do that metal music hour. I forgot the name of it.
Well, he knows the finish, just not in a bunch this big.
Yes, exactly, and also not straight off.
Now it's all Jersey Shore. Once Jersey Shore kind of kicked off, then it started going down the route of drama, reality TV, headbanger ball. Yeah, I mean,
a very fast finish today. Let me talk you through the
none of
running.
that crap
If you
anymore.
look at the profile, they're going over an uncut climb. It's not
Yeah, it's a great angle.
but the descent
Just not when everything is see-through.
crucial. It's very, very wide. It's going to be super fast, and they have some bends on the way down. Another crucial point is going to be with around 2 kilometers to go till La Flamme Rouge. The riders will face bumpy roads, and there will be a lot of manhole covers. Then we go to 900 meters to go. The riders take a left turn, and then with 700 meters to go, they take almost a U-bend. It's really, really, it's actually quite wide, and it goes like this, and then left again with 450 meters to go. So they're actually going in the bend for several hundred meters, and then left, and that's the last turn behind me here, far away. But when they go out of the last turn with 450 meters,
All the music videos are on YouTube nowadays.
they will face a tailwind.
Whoever makes them,
And if we look
they
up
just
here,
put them all on YouTube.
we have the flags behind me. You cannot really sense it, but we have gust at the moment, and the wind is picking up, and it's going to be a super fast finish.
Tailwind finale, Sean Kelly, just to add to the pace.
Yes, well, this is going to be a rapid fast one, and when you come out of that last corner with what approximately 500 to go, it is good to have a number of teammates there, and if you have a number of teammates and they can really ramp it up out of the last corner, then a bit more difficult for anybody that's a little bit further
Probably. Oh yeah, more than likely.
position to move up. So this is going to be an important one with a team as well. The problem is, and talking about the teams, you know, are the best ones here. Albus and Koenig, they haven't busted at any time here on this race like last year. We
Just
seen
with advertisements.
last year there were 2 or 3 riders riding the front. Then you had Mathieu van der Poel.
Ads alone.
They launched the sprint for Philipson. They haven't been able to get it that well organised this year. And
I think you can watch music videos on Spotify.
pretty messy in the sprints, and you know, you talked about Mark Cavendish there. The day he won his stage, team did a great job, and he had to, you know, ride on the wheel of the other sprinters. But there's not many guys who are able to do that. When you're going at 60 kilometers per hour, you know, just to go through gaps which are very tight, touch shoulders, all of that. There's a lot of names in there. I could start picking them out that don't like doing that. So this is going to be a one here. You know, into that final kilometre is going to be very important. And of course, the last corner. If you're too close to the front as well, then you can get, you know, you can get caught out from behind as the flush come from behind. So it's just such a fine detail. But the big thing is, if you have 3 riders, 4 riders to look after you, and you're, you know, one of the fast men here, that is the dream running.
Robbie, there's quite a few technicalities actually. At 3.5 kilometres to go, we hit one of the now beloved of town planners and engineers in France, roundabouts. It's a double-sided option, so it looks pretty even Stevens either way, but the pace will be extraordinarily high because we're just after where the GC men have reached their safety zone at 4Ks out. And then with, what, 2.8 to go, we take about a third of a roundabout. That's really going to be the first crucial test for them before the complexity of the finale, I suggest.
Yeah, well, those 2 points, the one you mentioned there, at just outside 3.5 kilometres to go, a roundabout that's marked in the book as having a passage on both sides. That's where you really rely on the outrider from your team, so someone who drives the course through to the finish and takes a really good look, even stops there at that point. Even better if you've got someone who can ride it, but generally just by looking at it, you say, okay, left is faster than right or vice versa. Even if it's a matter of a couple of metres difference one side to the other, it's worth knowing which one is a couple of metres faster when we're talking about 3.5 from the finish, lead-out trains getting all set up. The last thing you want is to give away 3 metres to the other and give yourself extra work to do. But when we talk about the lead-outs and Alpecin, De Koenig, and not being quite where they were last year in terms of their dominance of the sprint lead-out, I don't think it's got a lot to do with differing form by those riders. Maybe Mathieu van der Poel is not quite where he was last year, but the entire team as a whole, I don't think they're any less, but I just think there's a lot more competition and quite a few other well-drilled teams for the lead-outs. Like we just mentioned before, Intermarché have really come into their own with Biniam Girmay. Disorganised the first day he won his stage. Since then, they have just been so drilled, but another team that's been doing a really good job as well. Lotto have been good at keeping Arnaud Delis at the front with numbers, but Uno X Mobility, they have got to the front on a number of occasions. This fella Alexander Kristoff, if they can do that again today, then he's the sort of guy, he's won in the Tour before. We're going through this sort of list of possibles and probables and guys we shouldn't be surprised about if they do manage to win. And if you've got a team as organised and as strong as Kristoff has at his disposal, why not him today?
Yeah, absolutely. It was always on swapsies between him and Soren Varenshold, but yeah, Kristoff today will, I'm sure, fancy it. The man who was very well placed, he won it. Stage 6 into Dijon, Dylan Groenewegen. Likewise, I'm just hoping Michael Matthews' travails are behind him. 18.6 kilometres from home. Just hoving in on some very serious faces after a day where a lot of breeze has been shot. Can we put it that way? Tom Pidcock just moving up around the outside. This will be on guiding duties, of course, for Carlos Rodriguez and still Egan Bernal. Meanwhile, looks like an Elvis sneer going on at the frontier from Marc Soler, just sitting in behind him, Niels Pollitt, waiting to do his drag race. At the moment, Sean, headwind, it's the calm before the storm.
Yes, it is, and a very strong headwind, as we can see the way the flags are blowing, and yeah, it's going to be pretty much the same direction all the way in here, so you know this is going to calm it down a bit, but yeah, there will be a point when we get to that little bit of a climb. It's roughly about inside the 10 kilometers to go. That's where it will start to get nervous, because we heard from our people on the ground there, the downhill very, very fast, and when you get to that point, if there's any little bit of a point where it could be a danger one, they're going to get the call big time from the DSs here, to keep to the front, and the pace will automatically up. But yeah, it's a relatively handy pace, and if you're sitting here second, third line, well then you're getting a comfortable ride here, and as long as it goes on for some of the sprinters, that's what they will like.
Corinne Report just waving to everybody to warn them about this elevated bit of paving. No whistle or pennant man this time by, although you hear a few blowing, as you can see. 17.4 kilometres from home. Safety first at the moment. Settle yourselves in and get ready for a very big one. Now, there's likely to be a bit of a drag race, as per usual, to get down to the safety marker. For those of you new to this, it's usually 3 kilometres, but they've expanded it on a couple of occasions within this Tour de France, sometimes 4, sometimes 5 kilometres out. It's from that point where if there is an accident, then those who are caught up by it essentially get the same time as the winner. So it neutralises the threat to the general classification, this being a sprinter's day. As you can see, they're lining up rather nicely. This is Israel Premier Tech working for Pascal Ackermann today, Ugo Uhl. along with Jakob Fuglsang doing a decent job here. 4 hours in the saddle. I suggest not terribly stressed today, Robbie, but it's about to change.
I think the lack of stress through nearly all of this stage will translate into major stress towards the end. They're going to ride in this direction for about another kilometre as we start to point out some of the sprinters. Gourmet quite a fair way back compared to Groenewegen and De Lee, pointed out there. But he's got teammates just behind him, plenty of them, so as soon as the road gets any wider, he'll have a chance to move up. But very narrow roads at the moment. But they'll ride this way for about another 800 metres before they take another turn. The wind will be coming slightly more from their right-hand side. That will take them all the way through to 10 kilometres to go in the foot of that climb. The good news for anyone who's just concentrating on just getting over the climb and don't want any other problems is it's quite forested around the climb, so that the wind shouldn't really have much, if any, impact on the race going over the climb. And that dive down the other side, it's 2.5% on the way up for 2.5 kilometres, and then 3.5–4% on the way down. So much sharper coming off the climbs. Those speeds will be incredibly high, bringing them down into the streets of Saint-Amand-Montrond.
Well, despite the apparent calm, still trundling along here, Sean, pacing at 51 kilometres per hour. That's a goodly pace, but it's about to change dramatically. It's the stop-start nature of the corners that come in a flurry late on that really are destabilising.
Well, the corners are always a problem when you're going at 50 plus kilometres an hour, and when you get into the final, you'll be going 60, 65. And if you have to brake and knock off your speed to build it up again, that's what you hate having to do in the final, especially if you're a sprinter going for a stage win here. So you want to get a clear run at it, and the place to do that is very much to the front end of the peloton.
Kirby Houston's not a vital part of the lead-out train, I wouldn't say, for Biniam Girmay. It will be, Gerben Tyson will be last man standing. Hugo Page, Mike Turnison, Lawrence Rex, then Gerben Tyson, and then Biniam Girmay, released in his green jersey. At the moment, he's just playing hobo in the caboose of the Alpecin de Koenig train, or he was a few moments ago on the right-hand side of the road. And as we circulate here, Remco Evenepoel is just making sure that he's up towards the pointy end in the leaders of the young riders classification. Coming over some of the, looks like a Christmas tree farm, to be honest. 15.3, long way to go to that. Only 15.3 kilometres remaining of today. A quiet day, Sean.
Almost there.
Fair to say, but to be honest, how do you snap yourself back in? Is this just something that's going to automatically happen? Somebody's going to be caught napping today, aren't they?
Well, I don't know if there'll be anybody caught napping here because, you're inside the final 15 kilometres. The race haven't really opened up to be full on at all. And the riders that need to be in the front, we're looking at the riders here on the rear. A lot of them riders, you could see there just a moment ago, they were still chatting at the back of the peloton. Yeah. So there's a lot of riders here. They have no interest in this end at all.
Damn, Buffalo's losing.
Anything against the sprinters that are here. They haven't got a fast man in their team. It's the guys up front. You have to, keep your concentration, get it right all the way. For the GC men, get inside that 4 kilometres to go, and then the sprinters will take over.
Yeah, Michael, it's a good plan, but my fear is you're going to have some smaller roads coming up, okay? So try to start moving up. Soon, Michael.
Direction there to Michael Mirko, I imagine.
Yes, that's by the sound of it from Mark Renshaw, and you just got to sort of read backwards out of that message as to what Michael Mirko might have been saying was his plan after being told, good plan, but I'd like you to move up. So it sounds like Mirko must have been saying, let's just sit back, it's easy, we'll wait till the road gets wider, and then we'll be all grouped together, and we'll make our move. Big team move. Well, they already are moving up to the front. Mark Cavendish just getting squeezed off the wheel of his 3 teammates in front of him, just on the right-hand side of the centre line of the road. Cavendish just out of the saddle. Or was it? No, he's one of his teammates, in fact.
Yeah, Gavir is actually determined to follow that train. I think he's done it in the past as well. Finished 3rd behind Groenewegen today. Opening up in the centre. Yeah, it's what I was saying, Robbie, that you know, do you get a little bit of brain fade? Maybe that was just an alternative battle plan that was quickly ripped up.
No, not brain fade. I mean, the sprinters, they will already be on edge, and even though it looks fairly pedestrian at the moment, we've seen the speedo ticker down in the corner reading, you know, high 40s kilometres per hour. What I would say is that even for these rides, if you're sitting in the belly of the peloton now, really protected from the wind, to ride 45, 46 k an hour is not a whole lot of effort. When it really does kick off, and then you're required to go to full stretch, full intensity, I think there could be some riders who get caught out by that their legs don't immediately switch on to that higher intensity. And it may sound strange for people, they're not warmed up at 46 k an hour. It's just, it is using a different element of your engine when you go into that sort of intensity required for the finale. And sometimes going from not much to everything, it's like almost, you know, going off from the start, full steam ahead without a warm-up. And some just might not be able to access their full capabilities.
I didn't realise that John Harris-Bass had released the stuff.
I mean, on a serious note, that was an incredible performance by that violinist. It's beautiful.
I thought you were going to say you didn't realise John Harris-Bass had grown his hair out.
I did wonder if you were going to say something about one of my relations, but I mean, yeah, no, none of the above. But that was beautiful.
It very much was. Probably ruined by me, but anyway.
I think I spoke over most of it, so you're safe, Carlton.
Thank you, mate. 12.4 kilometres from home. We do love the interludes that we get here, I must admit. It's, it is a... let's not forget, the Tour de France is a grand
Beyond
projet,
sweaty.
and it is the best advert for French
Good
tourism
Lord.
you could possibly hope for. We get to see
You know how much money people make just from Twitch? From ads?
Lots of treats.
You know, make thousands of dollars a day. It's like practically a drug dealer.
The team, of course,
But
was
illegal.
success straight out of the box. I think that kind of took the pressure off, perhaps just a little bit. But Jakobsen needs to take a step forward. There's a few others as well that we're thinking.
I think I might do some drumming stuff on Twitch. Just some covers. Nothing crazy, just play along with some tunes. Yeah, it's crazy. You see a lot of the main streamers, even just in subs, they're making 10k subs is 50 grand a month, give or take.
Personally speaking, I think he's just one of the little gems of cycling. I'd love to see him come good. That said, I'd also like Mark Cavendish to win another one, Binny as well. Sean, there's so many stories to tell, and I can't wait to tell it. We've got 11.3 kilometres to go.
Yes, and just looking at Astana here, we can see, you know, they're on the front here. We can see Mark Cavendish there just in the slipstream of his teammates. But Murko looks to be but further back, and that was an interesting one from Renshaw. You know, we have to move up. I think maybe Murko was just...
It's not easy work, though. I mean, it's to be constantly having to talk.
It's an interesting one to see what he wants to do, and
dealing with chat,
sometimes, you know, you have these
which I mean moderators deal with really, but
we'll hold off and we'll come up at the last moment, and then
chat at that rate, it's just, you know, it's its own entity. It's pretty much it's literally its own.
Wait and play that game, and yeah, it's a very interesting one to see what they would
Once
do
your
here.
chat can pretty much entertain itself, that's like your main goal.
Just tells, you know, the wind is quite strong here, but they're certainly not giving their all at all. As we go
But I mean, you got to be streaming entertainment shit. This stuff is not entertaining, so.
Presumably negotiate a little bit of street furniture in a few moments' time. One of these elevated traffic divides, very, very tight together. We often say about wide open highway that can have its own.
I don't know. Twitch has changed awfully a lot in the past 2-3 years.
So here we go, little roller coaster into town. Now it gets
Amazon makes no money off of this, but you know they still have enough to dump out to these streamers with Prime subscriptions.
That's going to be the issue. Apparently, it does max, according to Matt Stevens, at around 5% this time.
Yeah, wider roads than we've had over the last few kilometres, so plenty of room to move. And now we see EF Education
going to the front, Sean Quinn, so they're riding for Marijn van den Berg. And I would imagine their plan is to try and make things a little bit pacier on the climb if Marijn van den Berg is going to have his best chance of success in this sprint. Mark Cavendish being piloted right at the front. Victoria of Mikkel Murku, he does tend to hang back and ride behind his sprinter and then come up to them in the last couple of kilometres. So you sort of make sure they're staying out of trouble, and if there's an emergency, they get out of position. He comes around, says, grab my wheel, and he's just capable of making that well-timed and powerful acceleration to bring them back into position without burning them out. So all across the road at the moment, Jonas Vingegaard and his teammates from Visma Lease Bike on the left. Next to them, Tadej Pogacar, EF towards the middle. Intermarché, Biniam Gourmet already on the second row. Ineos trying to push up through the middle, and they are. And that's Mark Cavendish. Trek, not sure quite what to do today in the absence of Mads Pedersen's been out of the race for a couple of days, but Ryan Gibbons did a pretty handy sprint a few days ago, that uphill kick won by Biniam Gourmet when he got his second, and then it's over on the other side, Pascal Ackermann being brought forward by Israel Premier Tech. Behind them, Alpecin de Koenig. There's the rainbow stripes of Mathieu van der Poel on the right-hand side with Philipsen in his wheel.
Just looking at Sam Bennett picked out a few moments ago, just riding alongside Ben Healy, actually.
Come on, Buffalo.
Guiding up Marijn.
Buffalo better not lose to New England. That's crazy.
And indeed, his
That's
Irish
crazy.
compatriot, Sam Bennett. What can we expect from Sam today, Sean? Is it too brutal for him?
Well, you would expect him to be up there in this sort of finish, and we can see Oliver Nassen is the one who's in front of him, so he's just following him for the moment. But the problem is, we have seen Decathlon AG2 All Mondial numbers.
God, is this right over yet?
But they haven't given him that lead.
Holy shit.
A man who needs the lead out as well and take him to the point where he can kick off his sprint at that 200 or 180 metres to go, or maybe 150 metres to go, depending on wind direction, what sort of a finish it is. And that is so difficult here, as I talked about earlier. The bigger teams, that are really built around a sprinter in this race, they are having trouble doing it. So it's not surprising, but he's going to surf here, and he will be hoping that he will follow the other trains being pulled along, get into a good position, and if he gets the opening, you cannot ever count him out. And that is the case for so many riders. When you look at the start list here, you could pick out 10 or 12 of those guys who could, with the dream running, and we talk about that a lot. And
I'm finally traveling faster than the peloton.
Great run in. You don't have to make any effort in the final 2 or 3 kilometres, and then you're in the position where it opens up, where you can open up your sprint. Then there's a lot of riders capable of winning here.
Here we come, up and over the top. You can see the pace is not at its highest at the moment because we are climbing. You can also see as well that the great John Degenkolb was just guiding up Fabio Jakobsen, which is good news for Jakobsen fans. Movistar's Gaviria is on his own. He's just off to the left. You'll see the white M upon his back of Movistar, of the centre. He's on about line 3 if we're talking about lines across the road. Just hovering just for the time being and waiting presumably to make his move. Big power display here by Astana Kazakhstan after instructions from the car to get themselves, their backsides up towards the 4. That's precisely what they've done. And here comes Intermarché Wanty as well, working of course inexorably for the green jersey of Louis Meintjes. Watch out for the red shoulders of Dylan Groenewegen. Not the burnt umber of the Jayco Alula team, but they've held centre in the middle of the road for quite some time. And don't forget Bahrain with Phil Bauhaus. He can cope with a ramp. He possibly actually has dealt with this little hillock better than anyone else. Would have liked a ramp finish, but you just never know with the technicality that we're going to deal with finally. 6.8 kilometres to go, and look what's happened to the pace here, Robbie, as we come down.
Pace gone up, the gradients go down, pace goes up. Dylan Groenewegen has actually been sitting quite a long way back, trying to move his way right up through the middle of the peloton, but still a lot of traffic in front of him. Talking of Phil Bauhaus, is a very similar finish to this one that he won a stage in the Giro on. Uphill sort of kick. This out of the final corners around 1%, so call it false flat, but certainly a drag as Nils Pollitt doing his work for Tadej Pogacar as they're now onto the descent proper. And you see how downhill it is. I mean, into the aero, tucks, high speed, wound out on the gears. Bahrain Victoria is up the middle for Phil Bauhaus. There he is. So Visma Lease Bike just executing everything they need to do perfectly at the moment for Jonas Vingegaard, keeping him safe, but it's time in a moment, maybe not quite yet. The sprinters teams to come, but left Alpecin de Koenig. They start to make their run, bringing Philipsen forwards.
Costa's also doing a great job. The Portuguese champion for EF Education Easy Post. See that line of pink, and here comes Christoph's boys as well up the right-hand side in that familiar orange and red, just embedded as they are with Abramson wearing the polka dots. He'll be guiding out Christoph, I assume, in a short while. Meanwhile, Visma on the left-hand side of the road just start to pick it up. Ineos almost have done their duty. Still got a kilometre to go for the GC men, and look how wide it is, Sean. Danger therein as well on occasion.
Yes, well, it is a danger one because they're going at such a fast rate, but we can see there, you know, Israel Premier taking a good position as well with their fast man and Ackerman, but there's a lot of teams here, you know, with a lot more to give. 4.6 to go. We can see here the teams that are on the front. You know, you could see them. It looks good at the moment, as we can see. You know, X trying to move up here, and yeah, the traffic islands are a major problem when you're going at this 63 kilometers per hour.
Philipsen
Thank the
sent
Lord.
His team just there. He got the squeeze and wasn't able to hold the wheel of Mathieu van der Poel. He's gone back around the outside now. He is back in position. Uno X and extreme right and now left of picture start to make their push forwards as Jan Tratnik is guiding Jonas Vingegaard just to the safety point inside 4k to go. Then they can clear the decks and let
Freaking body is like
Finally we get to that point. You can hear lots of calling.
trying to maintain nowadays because I guess I'm getting old.
And you can see Mathieu van der Poel, the world champion, stripes with Philipsen on his back wheel. There is Pascal Ackermann. Brian Cocard just tracing Mark Cavendish's
Not a good
team.
sign.
He's going to be doing it solo for Cofidis around the 3.7 roundabout.
Now why did this didn't count? Yesterday counted, but today didn't.
You've got street furniture in the center to do so.
So
That's
strange.
making it more difficult as we come down towards the 2.8. This is going to be a left-hander, a third of a roundabout. Here we go. Pace not back, around 56 kilometers per hour right now, just seated in nicely. Israel
Soon enough, I'm going to be in the grave at this rate.
There you see the double down boys as they start to think about it for Alpecin de Koenig and Jasper Philipsen, keeping it nice and calm. It is, of course, Marijn van den Berg, as mentioned, in the pink that will be released last here. Bauhaus still not panicking at all, just got one man left. Cofidis with reinforcements coming up, and along the outside also here, Arnaud de Mar is getting involved.
40 miles, about 20 miles an hour.
That's quite a benign one. We will take a gentle right-hander now, and then there'll be a filtering down all the way as we scream down to 800 meters to go here, Robbie.
Well, Marijn van den Berg, he's being piloted to perfection at the moment by EF Education, not strictly a sprint lead-out team, but it's about keeping him at the front, saving his energy. Now the push coming. This is Abrahamson in the polka dots, and there's been a gap. So something's happened further back. A gap split in the field, left-hand side further back. It's easy to spot Mathieu van der Poel, world champion stripes. Biniam Gourmet has tacked himself onto the wheel of Jasper Philipsen, so it's not an Intermarché lead at the moment. He's chosen the wheel of Philipsen. De Lee is tracking him, so you look a little bit further back, the big name sprinters. Bennett on the left-hand side now, swing across. Following Ackerman and the men in pink from EF as Lotto charge up the middle, but they don't know yet where De Lee is. We know where he is. He's about weird 10. He got disengaged. One of the Fraser Service Groenewegen. He's the trainer there. He is on the right-hand side of the road. Here comes Groenewegen's boys right now. The red shoulders are coming up. He looks strong, looks purposeful. There'll be so many others as well. There's that orange-coloured shoulders just getting himself up towards the front. Christoph is still very much involved here. 1,600 metres to go. This is a race down to this horrible left-hander, European champion here, Christopher Ford, is still doing.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, another workout done. But like I said, I'm just trying to maintain nowadays rather than not even like getting stronger. Like I can't believe how quick. Is this working or what? What the fuck? No, I was just trying to get the sound from the race. but it doesn't want to hook in. 71 kilometers an hour. Good Lord. It's like a 40-mile-an-hour sprint. All right, what camera is on? Oh, this one. Okay. Yeah, the sun's not working though. Race is over anyways. We'll watch stage 11 tomorrow. All right, thanks, Ed. Enjoy your day of relaxation. Don't do too much. I'll be on tomorrow. So today I gotta eat, hydrate, 2-hour ride. So really gotta get some water in me and that fun stuff. But thanks for watching, homie. And I don't know, keep your eyes peeled because I think I'm going to. I'm sure I'm about to call for work. Oh, really? Well, make that money. Making money is better than not making money. See ya, Ed.